The opening round of the 2013 Blancpain Endurance Series. We're at Monza, and conditions could not be more different from 12 months ago. It's dry, it's sunny, it is very warm, and we've got a 60-car grid ready to do battle for what's going to be a 3-hour race with mandatory pit stops. And let's catch up before we go any further with some of the leading names in this year's championship. Trying to defend his title in the Blancpain Endurance Series is Stephane Ortelli. He's back with Audi, but for this year he's got 2 new co-drivers.
It's never better than having strong competitors, and of course last year was already very hard to retain the title for the team, but to catch it with both Christopher was really good. And I will try, definitely I will try. I have very good teammates. The team, we know each other very well. I love the Audi. The R8 is still one of the fastest cars here. So, and with the new spec from 2013, we are really looking forward to the championship.
Marc VDS Racing took 2 race wins in 2012, but was denied the championship at the last round. For Bas Leinders, this is unfinished business.
Of course, the aim for 2013 is to do 1 step better than 2012, because there we only finished second, and our aim is really to win. It will be a tough battle because there will be more cars, better teams, but I think we made a big improvement also over the winter, so the challenge is on.
Peter Dumbrack and Nissan joined the Blancpain Endurance Series for 2013, and the experienced Scotsman is under no illusion. This is competitive.
Well, it's the strongest GT3 championship in the world. 60 cars and a lot of great teams, a lot of great cars, a lot of great drivers. And as a racing driver, I want to be up against the best of them. So and that's the main reason for being here.
Always a force to be reckoned with in the Pro-Am category is the Blancpain Racing Lamborghini. Mark Hayek again shares with Peter Cox, and Cox will be a star.
Obviously we are going for it. We have a very strong team in Blancpain Racing, and we have a fantastic car in the Lamborghini and a very good team, so we try.
Graduating from Pro-Am to the Pro Cup is Giacomo Petrobelli. He was a race winner in class in 2012. 2013 is going to be a harder task.
I think after doing very well last year in the Pro-Am class, we're looking forward to the challenge, looking forward to driving the Ferrari in Monza in front of the fans. I think that's going to be good, and we'll see how it goes. Clearly 20 cars in the Pro class is going to be tough, but we'll give it a go.
And you can never discount Porsche. The Belgian Pro Speed team is back, having won at the Nürburgring in 2012, and as last year, behind the wheel is Marc Henrici.
I'm happy to be back in Blancpain Endurance Series with Pro Team again with my teammates Xavier Mas and Maxime Solé. Last year we finished on P3 in the championship and we won a race, and this year we want to be a little bit better, maybe 2 positions better, and that's the goal.
Marc Henrici, winner at the Nürburgring last year, one of a very long list of potential winners for what is going to be a stunning race. David Addison trackside, Jack Nicholls is going to be in the pits, and down on the grid, topping up his Santan, is John Watson, and we're going to be hearing a lot from John during the course of the race. But first, he's found 1 or 2 drivers to talk to.
Fastest McLaren is the MRS GT racing car. Philippe Eng is going to start. I'm here. Rodin Unissi, you're going to be in the car. First time at Monza.
Yes, it is. And I'm very much looking forward to it. Very exciting track and historic event for us.
What do you think you can get out of the McLaren this afternoon?
Well, we're hoping for 100%. It's a fast car, very great in the cornering and handling, so it's really ripe for this kind of track and this environment.
You bring it home safe.
Thank you. Will do.
New to the championship is Rodin Unissi, and he was impressive earlier on in the day in the qualifying sessions. So now let's see how he fares in this opening round of the series. The grid is formed. They're going to, of course, have a rolling start, and very shortly the cars will be making their way off the grid for that rolling lap around this fabulous circuit. You can see the temperature, 36.1 degrees. It is a glorious day, and good to report there's quite a few people that have come to watch it down at the first chicane. The grandstands are getting busier and busier. There are, for this season's season opener, 9 different brands represented on the grid. You've got Audi, you've got BMW, you've got McLaren, you've got Nissan, Ferrari and Aston Martin, Mercedes, Porsche and Lamborghini. And again, the championship is split across 3 classes, only GT3 cars. We don't need to worry about GT4 anymore. There just is not the room on the grid. So you've got the Pro Cup, where there are 3 pro drivers, Pro-Am, where you have 2 amateurs and 1 pro, and then you've got the Gentleman Trophy for the less experienced drivers or for those in the later years of their career, shall we put it like that. Amongst them, Marc Sword, who was winning championships back in 1971, but he's still a very keen racer indeed. A 60-car grid, 1 or 2 conceivably, looking down on this, still in the pit lane. But Mark Henrici is the man on pole position. Let's go back to the grid.
Fastest Ferrari in the grid, where Alessandro Pierguidi must be very happy to have a Ferrari on pole at Monza.
Yes, for sure. For Ferrari, for me, I'm Italian, guys, and in front of my fans to be in pole is incredible. Especially Monza is a historical track, and now we see the race. Will be difficult for us, for everybody, for sure. We have to be safer in the first corner, and then we see the rest. I think we are in a good shape to do a perfect job.
So really, usual Monza story.
Yes, it's the most historical track in Italy, and I think in the world. Is the fastest track, and is very good. It's very fun to drive.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Alessandro Pierguidi starts at the front of the grid, very experienced driver, lots of support for him. There's a big Alessandro Pierguidi banner sitting in the grandstand opposite the start and finish line. It's Ferrari, Porsche on the front of the grid, 2 legendary sports car makes ready to do battle. And the way that qualifying works is that there are 3 segments to it. It pays to have your faster driver in at the very end, and that's what the Ferrari team, SMP Racing, did to put Pierguidi in right at the very end of qualifying. He took pole position, but he does not have to start the race. The fact that he stood outside the car goes to prove that it's going to be one of his co-drivers, in this case Alexei Basov, who will go first. The benefit to keeping your fastest driver out of the car until the last stint is simple. If there is a late race safety car, you need your fastest driver there at the end, because that is when you can make up a whole heap of places. It's important to have that faster driver in for the last stint. It's when the race can be won or lost. Equally, of course, very important, perhaps more than ever this year, are going to be pit stops. 60 cars means the pit lane is going to be very crowded indeed. They have to make 2 mandatory stops. They have to change tyres in each of those stops. There's also going to be the refuelling element to factor in as well. And you will find that if everybody comes in at round about the same point, with probably only a lap or 2 at the most as a window for these pit stops, it's going to be hugely crowded in that pit lane as well. And if there's a safety car, everybody will take the opportunity to dive in at the same time, and I think you're going to find some teams badly delayed because they're just going to get boxed in, not deliberately, but it's going to happen, I'm sure. BMW teams have been very concerned about the balance of performance, not helping their cars around this circuit at all, and you have to go back to the 3rd row of the grid before you find the first of the BMWs. And if you look left, there it is, Mark VDS Racing's number 3 car, which is going to be started by Bas Linders. Go further back on the grid, you've got the Aston Martins, you've got Ferraris, and this segue shot shows you just how busy a grid this is. Stephane Ortelli in the middle of it, enjoying a fine sight, this multi-million euro grid. Ferrari to the left, Porsche to the right, then you've got more McLarens, and the McLarens are far more competitive proposition than they were here in the wet 12 months ago. Don't rule out Lamborghinis, they have looked strong during qualifying. Audi hasn't perhaps shone in the way that was anticipated, but the Audi's lining up alongside Lamborghini further back on the grid. Team WRT is back, so is Phoenix Racing to the left there as we go down the grid. AF Corsa returns to defend the Pro-Am title. Nick Commerson and Louis Mackill's come back to try and make it 3 in a row, double champions, the only Blancpain double champions we have. It's good to have 2 different Nissan teams, RJN, but also JRM. Look how far back on the grid the number 4 Mark VDS BMW is. The BMW Z4's really struggling. This is not their circuit, but bear in mind it was last year in the wet a BMW victory. Keep going, Aston Martin, Audi, go further. Vita 41 Racing's BMW, a long way back on the grid, but even further back, Mercedes really struggling in the qualifying session this morning, not just because of traffic, but seemingly because of a lack of top-end speed as well. More BMWs, more McLarens, more BMWs, more Ferraris, more Audis. Keep going, keep going, keep going, right the way back to the Parabolica, and this amazing grid is ready to do battle. The ARC Bratislava Porsche of Miro Konopka and Ahmed Al-Hati is there, Vita 41 right at the back of the grid. And finally we get to the tail end, where Ferraris and Porsches are set to do battle. There is the Christian Kelder's Daniel De Bruyere Porsche that was victorious twice in the championship last season, and that is going to be the last car on the grid. But there are 1 or 2 gaps, and that means we've got a couple of cars that are going to be starting from the pit lane as we get ready for the opening round of the championship. What a grid. And it's going to take us a good 3 hours to get through even half of the entry, because there are so many star names, there are so many drivers with fascinating backgrounds. We're not going to get to all of them, I don't think. A replacement safety car is heading up the grid, ready for the rolling start, and as soon as that is in place, then the start can get underway. Everybody is now off the grid, so the marshals with the yellow flags warning everybody that the rolling start is imminent. It's not a set number of laps, it's 3 hours by time the checkered flag goes out the first time the leader crosses the line. Once those 3 hours are up, 2 mandatory pit stops. Now, fuel is going to be vital. If there is a safety car period, that's going to help the fuel calculations. But if not, go back 2 years when it was a dry race, we got through without any safety car at all. Smaller grid by a bit, but no safety cars. That really is going to affect the fuel calculations. Some people are reckoning it's going to be a 100-lap race and they can do 32 laps within a stint. Well, multiply 32 by 3, you don't get to 100 laps. So fuel and fuel economy is going to be absolutely crucial to this, but so too is the first corner. Now, you've seen how busy a grid it is. You can see the cars streaming down to the first chicane. At the moment they're in single file formation, but when the lights go green at the end of this rolling lap, it's going to be every man for himself, and that first chicane is going to be a very crowded house indeed. Let's have a look at the grid. It's going to be Alex Bassov starting on pole position, the time set by Pier Guidi, and with him at the front of the grid, Mark Henrici. The grid scrolls through, just picking out 1 or 2 of the drivers to watch. Well, practically all of them, but certainly Mark VDS's BMW is going to be in the mix. Also keep an eye on the Beach Dean Ice Cream Aston Martin, Andrew Howard going first. It's good to have Adam Carroll in the championship full-time this year. Remember, we saw him at Silverstone last season for BMW. Now he's got a McLaren to drive, and he is for sure going to be a man to beat with Nico Verdonk and Rob Bell for company in that car. Hexis starts 13th on the grid. Steph Dusseldorp goes first, having been victorious in the last round of the championship at Navarra last year. And that was a race in which McLaren won Pro and Pro-Am classes, really proving that the car had finally made it within the Blancpain Endurance Series. 1 or 2 of the names you'll see on this grid, familiar not just from Blancpain, but also in the new FIA GT Series, and set for a busy season. Giacomo Petrovelli, runner-up in Pro-Am last year, along with Eugenio Amos, steps up to the Pro Cup for this season, and Marcus Paltela switches from the number 3 Mark VDS BMW to number 4, where he's joined by Henri Moser, and Nick Katzberg, he's going to be a driver to watch as well. Keep going. Lucas Law, former FIA GT1 world champion, makes his Blancpain arrival, but is mid-grid. Greg Gilbert, double class winner a couple of years ago. We've also got the Aston Martin, started by Laurence Frey, having switched from the rather recalcitrant Jaguar of last year, and still they pour through. There's Humaid Al Massoud starting in his Nissan, the Emirati driver whose family owns the biggest Nissan dealership in the world, and he now makes his Blancpain debut, having been busy in the American Le Mans Series last year. John Watson, there is an awful lot to look forward to in this race, but first of all, they've got to get through that first chicane.
It's very warm in the grid, David. The first chicane is always an issue here at Monza. Trying to get 60 into one, well, my mathematics can't work it out. I just hope we get the bulk of the field through there without contact. I suspect by the time the tail of the field and the rolling start gets down there, they will find cars physically stopped, waiting for the lead cars to make their way into and through and then exit that turn 1 chicane. Everybody knows the dangers. Everybody says they're aware of what they should do. But when that red mist appears, forget it.
And that, as the grid scrolls through, is not quite the end of it. There are still more to come. Marlene Broggi's McLaren had a fire at the end of qualifying, but good to see that that should be on the grid. So now the cars get themselves in the 2x2 formation, starting on pole position, Alexei Bassov. Surely that's going to be a car that will go backwards, because we know he is not the quickest driver in that. Alessandro Pierguidi, having set pole position, did that great time, but now you're going to see some cars go up the order, you're going to see some drop down, and that's only going to exacerbate the dramas of a crowded grid on the first lap. So for everybody, teams, drivers, maybe the race director as well, it's all a bit heart in mouth as we're about to go racing. Round 1 of 5 in the 2013 Blancpain Endurance Series here from Monza. The grid is ready, the grid takes shape, they come out of the parabolica, accelerate up towards the timing line. When those red lights go to green, the race will be underway. You can see just how busy it's going to be. Who is going to make the run now as the race gets going down towards the first chicane? It's going to be 3, 4, 5 wide maybe as they go down towards the first chicane. Now you'll see who's got the grunt in a straight line. Vasov goes backwards, but look at Alex Buncombe, the Nissan charging up on the outside. It's the car that he qualified. Lucas Orjanieth at the wheel on the outside line, but on the inside line it looks like Philippe Eng may well, or that McLaren and Philippe Eng and Carlos Cray have made it through the lead. There's more drama, people trip over themselves, but it could, John, have been a whole lot worse.
It could have been very much worse. In fact, there's only 2 cars that I saw made contact. Great start from Philippe Eng in the MRS GT Racing McLaren. Stunning start from the Nissan. And the Porsche, Mark Henrici, got swamped on the run down. It's a bodywork flying off the back of a car coming through Casa Grande, and that probably is the consequence of the touch we saw under brakes into turn 1.
Now, we had €10 down earlier on that we get a safety car on the first lap. So far, I might be €10 up because they managed thus far to get through safely. Let's have a look. The car that lost the bodywork we think was one of the brace of Santilok Audis. We'll pick that up in a moment. Look as this field swarms through. And it won't be long, of course, before Monza is just one continuous line of cars. So, on this opening lap of the race, the MRS GT Racing McLaren going strongly. The car due to be started by Carlos Cray as the field works its way then down towards the Variante Ascari for the first time. But Philippe Eng, we're told, is going to be the man behind the wheel of that car, which makes more sense because he is the quickest of the 3 drivers.
Well, it was Philippe Eng we wanted to speak to from this Mr. McLaren. He said, no, I'm actually starting this race. So that's how we ended up with the Rodan Ionesi, whose first time at Monza, looking forward to it. And, well, he's got a massive day here at Monza. Stream through the Ascari.
Now, 71 is one of the cars showing damage, isn't it? And that is the Ferrari. Car of the Russian drivers, Lanigin, Alyoshin and Shaita. They're going strongly. Hans-Guido Riegel in the Haribo Porsche, and the bodywork is being cleared up by the marshals. And there's a Ferrari in the gravel at the Variante Ascari, but thankfully John able to dig himself out.
Well, whether he made a driver error or whether he got spat out, we don't know. But there we see the race really for 3rd place. Henrici's now got up into 3rd place, being challenged into braking, coming down into turn 1, the chicane.
So the cars turning their way through the chicane. It's all a bit more busy this time. People getting the wrong line. Yellow flags busily being waved. That's the reason. Ferrari facing the wrong way. Can they all avoid him? Everybody's going one way. Oh.
Well, some drivers are taking the shortcut behind the corner, turn 2. Others are going around it. They may say it was a force majeure. Well, I think the stewards will, or the director will want to look at that and see whether there's any advantage gained from the cars that took the shortcut through turn 2.
So up the escape road goes the Ferrari in question. So Philippe Eng it is leading the way. Alex Buncombe confirmed. He's the man in 2nd place. Mark Henrici runs 3rd. And Laurens Vanthoor is 4th in number 1 Audi. There's the Santilok Audi, a new lightweight model. Damage at the front, damage at the back.
Well, without a front bodywork on that car, aerodynamically, apart from anything else, it's dangerous. The car should not really run in that condition. Should go back into the pits, fit new bodywork, and let the driver continue in safety.
So Philippe Eng it is up front. Alex Buncombe chasing after him. There's Mark Henrici dropping away a little bit, but he's got Laurens Vanthoor for company as they make their way now down towards the Parabolica. Look at the gap. The top 2 has managed to pull already. But again, one of the fascinations of this is the differing speeds of the co-drivers. So what we see in this first stint certainly won't mirror what you see in the 2nd or the 3rd.
No, I mean, Alexandro Pierguidi, without doubt, set pole position, quickest driver in that 70 Ferrari. It's now back in 5th place. When he gets into the car, he'll have to do a lot of work. But of course, in the instance of the cars at the front, these are the pro drivers. They're pulling away comfortably. But that battle for 3rd place, Henrici is getting swamped by the Ferrari, overtaken by the Ferrari, coming down the main straight.
They come, look at this, they all fan out across the road, desperately trying to find track position, and it gets so busy under braking. Everybody funneling their way through the right, through the left. And at the front of the grid, in the main, you've got the pro drivers who should know how to keep out of trouble.
Yeah, Antoine Leclerc and the McLaren harrying the Porsche on the exit. Had position coming into the first chicane, couldn't make it stick. Now, right on the rear wing of the Porsche, down into the 2nd chicane.
Leclerc making good progress, having qualified 15th for this race, down towards the 2nd chicane. The McLaren gaining ground and defending. That pro-speed Porsche is losing out of it as well, isn't it, look?
It has. It's lost, well, it was started on the front row of the grid, and he's now lost 4 places.
Field turning its way towards the first of the 2 Lesmo curves, then down towards the Variante Ascari. Remember, this is 3 hours of racing. Now, what is going on for Marc Henrici? He's losing places as they're on the inside. Bas Linders finds a way through. Is this a problem, or is this being clever about fuel and running to a pace that will get them to the hour mark?
Well, it is an endurance event in every sense. Part of that is fuel conservation. If you have got to back off by a second or so a lap to ensure that you don't have to make a final pit stop, and the time lost doing that is greater than the time you're losing right now, well, that might be the philosophy behind the Pro Speed Porsche. And Marc Henrici, with the pace that that car has, second quickest car in qualifying, it's not showing that pace right now and going to be challenged very shortly by the BMW.
And still hunting down for another place is Antoine Leclerc as they come down towards the Parabolica. They're going strongly, number 69, Rob Bell at the wheel of it, the McLaren. Makes his way up over the timing line. He's on the back of Marco Mappelli in the Porsche, number 83. This, of course, a circuit 2 years ago in the dry that was won by Porsche. Philippe Eng leads. Alex Buncombe is their second. Look at the gap between the top two and the rest.
Well, I'm looking at the gap, but what I'm looking at is the reduced gap. As you see now, the Porsche trying, or as the Audi trying to get down the inside of Leclerc. But the balanced position first and second, Alex Buncombe. Well, the gap showing it just under half a second as they came into the chicane. And the grunt that the Nissan has, that V8 engine up front, a true GT car.
We're getting news that the Sergei Zlobin, Boris Rottenberg, Daniel Moe Ferrari has been off at the Parabolica, but back on again as now Marc Henrici is under attack. Past him goes number 1, Laurens Vanthoor at the wheel of it. Henrici was trying to fight back, but Laurens Vanthoor makes sure he hangs on to that place.
Yeah, he got the ground into the chicane, and Marc Henrici knew that there was no way to go around the outside. It's so narrow. Let's have a look and see what happens down at the Parabolica, and there's contact. Nissan and the Ferrari spun around and into the gravel.
Sergei Zlobin, who a few years ago even survived a car bomb attack. The Moscovite, one-time Minardi test driver. He's under attack again here as well as he got that assist towards the gravel. So, a lot's happened. We've only had 3.5 laps. There's a heck of a lot more of this to come as Marc Henrici then back ahead of the BMW, but he's got this whole traffic jam behind him. Just look at this. They're all stacked up, including there, number 1, Laurens Vanthoor, looking to try to make his way through the traffic. Also, the Aston Martin, another change of driver for the published start driver list. Daniel McKenzie it is that does the first stint. Daniel new to GT Racing, ex-Formula 3 man. You can see the Aston with the Union flag on the roof. That car joining in the mix as well.
Yeah, so it's an interesting car, the Aston Martin, unlike most of the mid-engine or rear-engine cars that it's racing against. But Marc Henrici being pressed by Bas Linders in the BMW, but unable to get past. The Porsche has got the advantage in straight line speed. The BMW may have slight advantage under braking, under road holding and cornering, but it's more about high speed, top speed at Monza.
4 laps done. Eng is only half a second ahead of Alex Buncombe. In third place, Alexei Vasov. We thought that car was going to go backwards. He's done a very good job of hanging on to third spot, hasn't he? Fourth and making progress all the time is Antoine Leclerc. 5th over the timing line was Henrici. 6th, Bas Linders. Let's have a look at the replay of the start, John. How did they all get through turn 1 safely?
Well, in the case of the Nissan, out-and-out grunt, but a great start from Philippe Eng in the McLaren. He managed just to nick that grip into the turn 1, but the Nissan behind. Further back, well, we saw that little bit of contact, and nothing really of any consequence, but nevertheless, it's something you don't want to have. And the bodywork's going to fly off as we come through Curva Grande. The nose of that Audi, we saw it go skyward. Where is it? Still waiting for it. There it is for the nose. You can see the nose was damaged. It finally, with air pressure, just peeled back over the windscreen of the Audi and then remained in tatters in the gravel on the outside of Curva Grande.
The top 2 then, getting away. You can see still that it's Eng ahead of Alex Buncombe, but Alex Vasov is being one of the stars of this opening stint. We're not expecting him to run in this company, but he's doing a very good job. Vasov then hanging on to that third place as he sprints now down towards the Parabolica once again. Antoine Leclerc is getting closer and closer and closer, but he's not yet found a way through. Vasov, who began in Rallycross, he's racing the European Touring Car Championship, the current variation of it. He's done quite a bit of rallying, he's done some GT racing in the past, and also the Insight Racing Ferrari there, which is another car you can depend on for a good class result. Rob Barth in 88, he's going very strongly. Everywhere you look, there's someone to talk about.
Von Ryan Racing, one of my old engineers.
Good old Dave Ryan, second year running GT cars in this championship, and the rest of the field still comes pouring through. compare what you had at the end of lap 1 to the end of 3 hours of racing. It's going to be a very different order. There is Marc Henrici turning his way now with Davide Rigon right on his tail in the Ferrari. Davide Rigon is gaining ground. Whoops, is there going to be contact here? Very, very close indeed. Alessandro Pierguidi trying to muscle his way past Christopher Mies. Look at this, Audi and Ferrari together.
Well, there were contact as well as they come out of the chicane into the Curva Grande. Meanwhile, Baz Linders has dropped a place. He was chasing Henrici. He's down to 7th from 6th.
And Rob Barth has gained 1 spot out of that little battle while they were tripping over themselves. Look in the background, the Von Ryan racing McLaren is on the outside line. Rob brakes late as he dares round the outside. He's off, he's over the curb, he's back on again. Does he hang on to the plate? They touch again. This is an endurance race and they're going at it like it was a 10-lap sprint.
Well, Rob Barth is also a racing driver and instructor. I don't think that's in his manual of motor racing.
It worked though, Rob. Well done. You've gained another place. So the Von Ryan racing McLaren gains ground.
It may be seen he gained an advantage. He didn't go through the chicane. He went behind it. So again, that'll be an incident we'll probably see on screen that will be being investigated. So you'll keep your hands and everything together that Rob Barth gets away with that one.
New race director for the championship this year, Bernard Cottrell, very experienced race official. He'll have a look at that. The stewards will make a decision if anything has to be done. But it's on the timing screen. Car 88 cut the chicane at turn 4. Well, it was there on camera. It's on the timing screen for the teams to know about. So there may well be a penalty heading Rob's way for that. Let's see. Daniel Mackenzie in the Aston Martin comes down towards us. And he's under pressure, that's for sure. There is the reason for that pressure. Alvaro Perez for the Hexis racing team. I still think that's going to be a winning car, but the Hexis McLaren is going very strongly indeed over the timing line. Now let's have a look at this moment of Rob Barth. John, talk us through it.
Well, he came along the outside going into the second chicane. He couldn't get the car. You can see he's actually got the wheels turning, but the car was still going straight on. So he then got the advantage coming out of the chicane, got alongside the Audi. A little bit of Rob along the body panels, but he's on the inside as they come up to the first of the 2 right-hand Lesmo corners. And to me, he did gain a slight advantage. Whether the stewards will take that and see a penalty or not, we will get that information in time.
There's Sebastien Loeb after his trip through the gravel. The car is now in the garage and being worked on as the race lead fight continues. Eng versus Buncombe, 0.3 of a second between them. Alex Buncombe comes from a good racing family. His father, Jonathan Buncombe, very successful touring car racer and super saloon racer in the 1970s. Philip Eng, who was a former Formula BMW World Final winner, very successful in the modern generation, the Jonathan Palmer variant of Formula 2, and now making his arrival on the GT arena.
He's doing a very strong job for that Nissan. They're second on the Nissan, different team, same car. They've got so much grunt. Look, the torque out of these chicanes just can pull the car nearly alongside the McLaren into Lesmo 1.
But isn't this why GT racing is so good? Because you've got these different shapes and sizes, different engine configurations, and the balance of performance manages to work to get them all together in a great big battle.
David, you might say that, but I don't think anybody in the pit lane would agree with the balance of performance.
But they all have a vested interest. I just like a good race. I just like a good race. But everywhere you go, people say, oh, we've been penalised for this, or we're too heavy, or the ride height's wrong. But everywhere there's a battle. Nissan versus Porsche. Hans-Guido Riegel there losing out. And look at this, Marc Henrici still busy battling, but this time he's going for a place against the Ferrari and Basov, but having leapfrogged the pair of them is Antoine Leclerc in the McLaren.
Yes, and I think we're going to see Henrici try to gain the advantage. He got past the 2 Ferraris. Now he's got the tail of the McLaren right in his face. 2 Ferraris think about making it 2 into 1. It doesn't go, I can tell you that now. And Marc Henrici, who lost a lot of positions, 4 positions in the opening laps, now starting bit by bit to make up. And of course, it's a professional driver as opposed to some of the others in the Ferrari. Maybe let's say a gentleman driver.
Battle's not only going on for position, but within the classes as well. Leclerc then hangs on to his 3rd place. Marc Henrici, having dropped back a couple of laps ago, responding once again. So whatever that was all about, he's now gone back into the attack mode. Basov is down to 5th in the Ferrari. And at the back of this group is the Gulf liveried McLaren of Rob Bell that's just gone quicker than anybody in the race so far in the first sector of the lap.
Well, that is a car that must be keep an eye on. You've got Adam Carroll, Nino Verdonk, Rob Bell, outstanding drivers. For Adam Carroll, fairly new to GT racing, Rob Bell, a star, and certainly in a McLaren.
Down to the Variante Ascari. You're looking at the fight for 3rd place. It is Antoine Leclerc in the McLaren. Right up behind him is Marc Henrici. Then the Ferrari with the blue front. Alex Basov up behind him is the all-red Kessel Racing Ferrari in the hands of Davide Rigon. and then they pour through. You can see the Lamborghinis are going strongly. A bit of damage on one of the Phoenix Racing Audis, and this is the lead battle that's nose to tail. Philippe Eng versus Alex Buncombe. McLaren versus the Nissan that could come booming past. We know how good that is in a straight line.
Well, Alex Buncombe has been following this McLaren all the way through. He's got the slipstream, but has he got enough to pull out? He needs to be out now. If he doesn't get out now, he's going to be too late. He won't be able to get it under brakes. He's going to go the long way around. That's down the left-hand side. Philippe Eng is in a good position to defend. Alex Buncombe does the right thing. He says, OK, this time I can't get it done. Good, clean racing from the two leaders of this race.
The MRS Racing team, Custom Monitors team, applaud that defence by Philippe Eng. He may be an inexperienced GT racer, but he's certainly proved his worth in the past in single-seaters. And not only has he managed to stave off that attack from Alex Buncombe, he's pulled out another length or so. But you'll see the Nissan is so good on these long straights. You've got one at the back to the Parabolica. You've got the equivalent over the start and finish line. McLaren good through the corners, but then the grunt of the Nissan will bring it back into the equation.
Of course, the Nissan is a physically much bigger car than the McLaren, so it's having to punch a lot more air out of the way to keep up the speed of the McLaren.
On the subject of punching, I fear there might be a bit here if they don't all breathe in and get into the chicane. So far, so good. BMW versus Audi versus Ferrari versus Mercedes.
A Mercedes-Benz? Is that the first time we've seen a Mercedes all weekend? What's happening to Mercedes here in Monza?
The drivers very unhappy about the lack of grunt the cars seem to have. So don't forget, the Mercedes, the type of car that won the FIA GT1 World Championship. Drivers in the FIA GT3 Championship won with Mercedes last year, and they were bang on the pace at the end of last year. But again, guess what they're blaming? The balance of performance.
Of course, the BOP back at the lead.
It's still Eng versus Buncombe, who gradually gets himself closer and closer on this nice long straight, then into the Parabolica. Great corner this.
Yes, McLaren probably has the advantage in being slightly more nimble in the middle of Parabolica, getting the power. Oh, punt off at the second Lesmo.
Way off into the gravel to try and work out who it is. One of the McLarens, I think. Yes, Frédéric Deviche for the Butzer-Gignon team, the Belgian driver. Well, at least he's kept his foot in. He's going to drag it out of there.
Right, well, I mean, at least he had lots of area to spin into and get back onto track.
And back into the pit lane as well. So the Belgian team goes to work to try to make sure there's no gravel in a nasty place, to make sure the car's not too badly damaged. But this looks like it could be a long stop for the team. And also off is one of the Ferraris down at second Lesmo, I think.
It's difficult to see that for that particular camera angle, but it is buried, so that's going to need outside assistance to get the car towed to a part, or rather the racetrack more likely towed behind the gravel trap to the service road. Well, it's at Parabolica, in fact, coming down the straight, trying to get alongside the sister Ferrari, and, well, that's a great idea. Punch your teammate in the back, send him off, you gain the advantage. I'm sure there'll be words afterwards.
So Thomas Kanemater is in the gravel. This the lead battle. It continues. Philippe Eng, who does one stint of the three in this car. Alex Buncombe. That's a fascinating combination of drivers in both, really. But if you take the Nissan, you've got Alex Buncombe, whose track record in a GT car is very good. You've got Lucas Ordóñez, who was the first winner of the Nissan PlayStation Academy. He's raced at Le Mans, for example, since. And you've also got in that car Steve Doherty, who was last year's American regional winner within the Academy. And he's racing on this stage for the first time. He's done the Dubai 24 Hours, he's done one or two races as part of that academy, but it's going to be a big ask of him to maintain this pace.
Flashing headlights, lead car warning the cars that are about to be lapped. We're only, 17 or so minutes into the race, and already they're catching up to the tail enders. But Alex Buncombe is sitting there. He wants to cause a little bit of distraction for Philippe Eng, but, you know, Philippe Eng just is focused on one thing, making sure he doesn't make a mistake. But the problem will come when he reaches traffic, because that's where Buncombe may seek to gain advantage.
Nose to tail, over the line, here they come. Eng defending that inside line. Alex Buncombe is getting closer and closer and closer, but the only way he can go is to the outside. He dives into the corner, he brakes late, he's done it, but has he gone too deep? He has, over the curve. He's going to have to lose the lead, isn't he? He does. Philippe Eng takes it back up. Nice try, Alex, didn't quite work.
I mean, it was almost sweet as a nut. Let's look at it again, comes down. Literally, he's so close to the rear of the McLaren, has to pull out sideways to avoid under brakes hitting the back of the car, but just fractionally too late in the brakes. And even the massive discs of these cars and calipers of these cars run, the grip from the Pirelli tire, not enough to slow the Nissan down. But the intention is there, and it's not going to be the last time we're going to see this.
That is for sure. And that is one of the Pro Speed cars. It's Mark Henrici, who is off at the chicane. He was fourth. And Mark Henrici is in the gravel, and that looks like day done.
My potential winner, my potential winning Mark. Well, Mark, what did you do?
Did he fall or was he pushed is the question. Mark is decidedly Albert's mother about that. Here's the answer.
I don't think there was any outside assistance whatsoever. There may have been an issue that we didn't get to see on that brief clip of the car in the gravel. We didn't quite see what happened before he went into the gravel. That may be the story. Hopefully we'll now see Mark Henrici in the pit lane with a microphone and give us the information.
So Mark Henrici out of the race. Lead battle still well and truly joined, isn't it? There you can see the orange McLaren in the lead of the race. Philippe Eng at the wheel of the car. It is run by MRS GT Racing that is going very strongly for effectively a first time in this level. And then you've got Alex Buncombe riding shotgun. Now, of course, they are nose to tail, John, but they're heading for a yellow flag zone.
Yes, but that's a long way. I'm just trying to think whereabouts it was now. Yes, it is. Yeah, it is. But it's now a blue flag, the yellow flag. Well, it was taken. It was out, then it was taken in. Now it's back out again. Alex Buncombe has got no option. He must concede. He must cease his attack on the lead McLaren. Once he sees the green flag being waved and there's still a blue flag as they enter Curva Grande, so one's assuming now there's a green track from here onwards. But the main area on the racetrack that Alex Buncombe could put hard work onto the back of Philippe Eng and the McLaren was into turn one.
Now there's that threat of traffic. You were touching on it earlier on. It's a very real threat now, isn't it, for Philippe Eng, who's got to look out of the front to see where the back markers are, and he's got to keep an eye on that mirror all the time because Buncombe is right there, but the back marker doing a very good job, straight out of the way, no drama.
Excellent. I mean, that's the most important. The cars that are at the tail of the field are almost obliged to drive one eye on the road ahead, one eye on your mirror behind, because you don't want to be involved in a battle, especially a battle for the leaders we've been watching here all through this race. Almost 40 minutes into the race already.
So Philippe Eng, who has done that great job first lap, of course, he managed to charge his way into the lead, fending off Alex Buncombe at the first chicane. The car's brake late, quivering a little bit under braking for the Variante Ascari. McLaren versus Nissan. Here they come. Out of the Variante Ascari. Now this nice long straight down towards the Parabolica.
Yeah, it's strange that Buncombe can't quite get out of the Ascari chicane as strongly as he needs to get the Nissan into a position into the Parabolica corner itself and then try and make a manoeuvre. If you do it into Parabolica, you're always vulnerable to being re-overtaken because the commitment that you have to make down the inside usually affects your exit speed on the outside. Gap bigger this time off Parabolica. The McLaren consolidating its lead.
Last lap, it was 2/10, it's doubled, 0.4 of a second. It's still nothing, really, is it, as they come over the timing line, but I don't think Alex Buncombe is close enough this time to have a go.
But Alex Buncombe's going to have to be watching his gauges, running so close to a car. We've got a fire at the back of the Porsche.
Now, that was 34 Porsche by the quick look we got at it. And that means that it is the Eric Dermont Franck Pereira car, which was very quick at Franck Pereira's hands yesterday and in qualifying today.
Well, it's smoking at the minute more than it is flaming. It was flaming coming into Lesmos. Whether that's a consequence of contact, whether it's just simply brakes, it could be brakes, but whatever it is, hopefully it's in control.
So the car a long way down at the moment, 45th that is. Eric Dermont at the wheel of it, making its way down towards the Parabolica. And of course all of these cars we're looking at are going to be lapped fairly shortly. This is what the leaders have got to work their way through.
That's the trouble, bodywork, yes. And bits trailing from behind. The very, very hot exhaust of the Porsche. Remember, the Porsche engine is behind the rear axle. The exhaust system is entwined all around. He's in the pit lane. The exhaust system is entwined all around that bit of bodywork.
Now, Mark Henrici is in the gravel. Let's find out more about this. Xavier Marson, his co-driver, is with Jack Nicholls.
Xavier, what did you make of that incident?
Well, apparently Mark said something broke off probably on the suspension. We don't know yet for sure, but yeah, real pity because this was definitely a race we could have won. The whole weekend we've been up there and in qualifying P2, so we're expecting a very good result. So it's a shame for the championship.
Thank you.
Well, that answers the question. It wasn't an assist, it was a breakage, a suspected breakage within the suspension.
Yep, it's always difficult. There is the car. It's always difficult to, when you see a car coming to the end of its trip through the gravel, to know whether it was assisted or not, as we look at Rob Barth in the midst of a battle as well in the McLaren.
Yeah, Rob Barth busy battling with the Aston Martin, Daniel McKenzie at the wheel of it, virtually side by side. We change for the lead. Alex Buncombe has done it at the first chicane. Alex Buncombe has gone through. Good bit of driving.
Well, that was opportunism, but he's been working at it all race, trying to get back now. Philippe Eng sees the opportunity because the speed off the corner from the Nissan, again, it's always a compromise when you pass, but the speed of the Nissan down into the second chicane in the middle of the racetrack, not giving any opportunity for the McLaren to seek entry into the corner one way or the other, just follow through.
Alex Buncombe leads at Monza, but for how long? Philippe Eng spurred into action, wants that place back, doesn't he? The McLaren dwarfed by the mighty Nissan as they turn their way now through the first of the two Lesmo curves. Alex Buncombe hanging on to that place. And for whatever reason, Alex remains a sort of unfashionable British driver. He is very, very talented indeed, but he just does not get the coverage and the recognition that many other Brits get, and he certainly deserves it because he is a very good GT driver, that's for sure.
I mean, extremely talented. I first got to know him 2 weekends ago at Nagaro, was very impressed with what he did in the Nissan in that particular event, and now leading the race, worked hard to find a way past the McLaren, finally made it into turn one. He's now got to consolidate. He's going to deal with the lap traffic, going to be the first of the lead cars to contend that traffic.
Antoine Leclerc still busy. He's got Davide Rigon behind him. There in traffic is Alex Buncombe, working his way past the Porsche, and he's put that back marker between himself and the other car.
Absolutely key for Buncombe to get ahead of the Porsche before Parabolica. That's going to give him some breathing space going through the corner onto the straight, because it means that Philippe Eng will have to then struggle his way past the Porsche on the fastest part of the racetrack, and the Porsche is quick in a straight line.
So there is the new gap, 1.1 seconds. Now, may not sound a lot, but it's a bit of breathing space for Alex Buncombe. But it then gets himself ahead of that back marker. Now, in turn, they are 9 seconds ahead of the third place car. It's the McLaren. There it is. Antoine Leclerc at the wheel of it. He's a bit busy defending, isn't he, from Davide Rigon right up behind him.
Yeah, I mean, the Ferrari may well be slightly quicker than the McLaren, but again, it's an issue about who's quick in the straight, who's quick at the end of the straight, and who can get their power down out of these slow chicanes. Chicane 1, chicane 2. The Ascari chicane, the final chicane, really is more a sequence of high-speed corners, middle to high-speed corners, more of an aerodynamic area. The slower two of the chicanes, they're all about mechanical grip and ability to put power down.
Now, Davide Rigon, we know, is very quick in a Ferrari. He's very quick in single-seaters. While he is stuck there behind Antoine Leclerc, he's being caught, isn't he, by Rob Bell behind.
Well, Rob Bell's in a very nice position because he's driving his own race. Rigon, the Ferrari, slips very wide coming through the first of the Lesmos. So Rob Bell just watching what is going on. He can drive his own race. He isn't under pressure from behind, and he knows that these two cars, the McLaren and the Ferrari, are going to slow themselves down.
Well, Alex Buncombe leads for Nissan. Lucas Ordonez will get into the car later. Let's hear from him now with Jack in the pits.
Lucas, great move from Alex to take the lead there. It's looking good.
Yeah, it's really looking good. Had a great start from P6 to P2, and then catching the McLaren last lap is fantastic. You know, it's a 3 hours long race, so we have to wait, be calm and steady, and yeah, have a good pit stop and keep going like this, and it should be okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
As I said earlier on, there's no argument about Lucas Ordonez's ability either. The question mark is about Steve Doherty, who is just so inexperienced. He's the very latest in this long line of people that have gone from couch to cockpit, the PlayStation Academy winner. We'll see how he gets on, but there's going to be a lot of pressure on his shoulders.
Yes, I mean, it's all going to change around when the first of the mandatory pit stops, the driver changes take place, and some teams are outstanding in the pit lane. They turn their cars around so professionally. Others are maybe not just quite at that level, and that's where all the hard work that's won and earned as Rob Barth gets alongside into chicane, takes that position away from the number 1 Audi.
That puts him 9th. Rob Barth not hanging around here, is he, in the Von Ryan Racing Run McLaren? So Rob's ahead of Vantour.
Yeah, but what's happened to Vantour? I mean, he was further. I mean, Rob Barth is the one that really is making good progress here in the Von Ryan Racing McLaren.
Whereas number 7, the Hexis Racing McLaren of Alvaro Perret, there it is. That's not really sparkling at the moment. Look how busy he is trying to defend places coming down towards the chicane. Christopher Meeks behind him in the Audi, but certainly you'd expect more from Perret unless they're running to a pace to look after fuel.
Well, we'll not really know the truth. Down the inside, good pass, but in a sense, Alvaro Perret, he said, look, I'm not going to fight you. Yeah. I know that you're quicker than me. As you say, it may well be a very clearly defined race strategy. What they're doing now will be payback for what will happen when the 3-hour mark comes.
One of the elements of Blancpain in its first year, 2 years ago, and it was relevant here, was what you could do under a splash and dash, because the regulations said that you had to undo your belts. That regulation has gone. It was so hard to police, it was dispensed with. So you can, at the end of the race, if you need to, make a good old-fashioned splash and dash. Stop, bit of fuel, and go. However, just by coming into the pit lane, you lose so much time.
Well, let's hope the remaining cars haven't got that philosophy in mind, because if you get 50 or more cars thinking splash and dash time, the pit lane is not big enough for them all to do it. Well, they wouldn't be doing it simultaneously anyway.
But they might at the end of an hour, certainly for that first round of pit stops. That is when everybody in the pit lane is going to be on their toes. So far, so good. We've had half an hour, we've had cars in the gravel, we've had a lot going on, but we haven't had that safety car that we feared we might as a result of the first corner. Up front, Alex Buncombe leads, and there's a slow Audi limp into the pits. Is that number 2, which has had all sorts of woes over the course of the day? It's number 1, it's the Vantour car. It's the sister car with a front left puncture.
Yeah, and that was the car, it had dropped back. Lawrence Van Thorp had been dropping back. Maybe the answer was that he had a slow puncture. As the Mercedes now takes a look down the inside, it makes its way ahead of the Porsches and the second of the 2 Ferraris.
Go back to that Audi for a moment. The sister car had a puncture in qualifying. Now number 1 has had a punctured tyre as well. Interesting, isn't it, that certain cars are struggling. We've not seen too much debris on the road. I know people have been going off and bringing gravel back onto the circuit and so forth, but Laurens Vanthoor then will have to make a tyre change. They could also, of course, put some fuel in the car now to be stopping out of sequence.
Well, a little battle going on, 5 cars into 1. And the Mercedes, maybe they didn't have the practice qualifying pace, but it's a strong car, and all it has to do is maintain consistent pace to put itself. Let's hope maybe a Mercedes will make it into the top 10.
At the moment, believe it or not, that battle you're looking at is for 27th place. And Klaus Hummel is the man in the Mercedes. And there is the punctured tyre for Laurens Vanthoor. The mechanics are hard at work. And they're just going to replace that one, are they? Or they're going to do the whole set? They're going to do the whole... No, just the one tyre. Drop it down. Yep, off they go. And that for Vita 4-1 is bad news. 27 has stopped by the side of the road. That, I think, is at the first chicane.
Yes, it is, yep.
Yellow flags, therefore, necessary there. The car's certainly gone on. You can see the grass has been chewed up.
It looks rather strange to be stopped there because there's no apparent damage to the car. Clearly there's a mechanical issue because the car is not able to be moved by the driver, waiting for the tractor to tow that car to safety behind the Armco barrier.
Now, Matteo Cressoni was the man behind the wheel of it. This is your fight for third place, with Rob Bell getting closer and closer and closer. Antoine Leclerc runs third, Davide Rigon is fourth, fifth behind them is Rob Bell. Last time Rob was just a tenth slower, but he's going to benefit from these two squabbling.
Very much so. He's been watching this for the last 10 or more laps, and what Rob Bell knows is that when he gets out of the car, it'll either be Adam Carroll or Nina Verdonk who will be in the car, and that's such a strong driver partnership. So their performance is going to be consistent, and that's consistent towards the front.
Nico Verdonk, race winner 2 years ago in Blancpain. Adam Carroll, who has only raced in the championship once before, but very nearly stuck it on pole position when he drove the BMW at Silverstone last year. Great to have Adam in this championship full time, as Daniel Mackenzie in the Aston Martin is busy battling. He was 10th at the start of the lap. And Rob Bath is driving like a man inspired. His next target is Bas Linders. And Rob, of course, gets one stint in this car. It's a 3-driver entry, so he may as well do as good a job as he can to haul it up the order. Another place gained. He goes ahead of Bas Linders. Rob Bath now runs 8th.
Well, I tell you, there'll be no holding Rob when he gets out of the car. He'll be so happy to have had a great drive, and that has been a great drive from the British driver in the McLaren in Von Ryan Racing. Davy Ryan, the Von was a nickname that he earned over many seasons in the past.
So Bas Linders trying to come back at him. Daniel Mackenzie doing a very impressive job there. Look at the Beachdene ice cream Aston Martin, through the parabolica they come. Daniel's single-seater career didn't really take off, so now he's refocusing on GT racing as Rigon focuses very clearly on the back of Leclerc, goes one side, then the other. Are those yellows in? They are, so it's clear at the first chicane. Nose to tail, those two. The gap over the line was 2 tenths, and another 1.4 seconds back behind them is Rob Bell.
And just ahead of the McLaren of Leclerc is an Audi, and that's an Audi that may well have been the Verdonk car that was in the pits. So it will be running at normal race pace, but a lap behind, there it is, a lap behind these cars battling for that third position.
It was a Montour car we saw coming to the pits, wasn't it? Now, has it lost? It has lost a lap because the leaders have gone by. Can it come back from there? As Hans-Guido Riegel loses out, up on the inside goes the Kirill Ladijin Ferrari, picks up a place. That's for 28th spot. Everywhere you look, there's a battle. You might think, oh, it's only for 28th place. These guys are trying as hard as they possibly can.
Well, it's certainly, I thought, an endurance race. This is anything but endurance. A lot of tired drivers after their single-hour stint, but a lot of them will be elated because it's really, really tense motor racing.
Right on the back of that group, you see the Blancpain Racing Lamborghini, Mark Hayek at the wheel of it, the car that he shares with Peter Cox. And that's a rather unorthodox way to come out of the first of the Lesmos.
Yes, indeed, coming out of the Lesmo and prettily painted, almost as Swedish colours, but of course yellow and red, yellow and blue. So back there's.
Ruslan Sipakov, who was going through the gravel. The race leaders have now done 19 laps. Alex Buncombe is now getting away. He's 2.4 seconds to the good. It's not a huge margin, but he is just creeping clear. And he's also still being able to put these back markers between him and Philip Egg. And then look at the gap that's developed between the top two and third and fourth and fifth, because Bell is just about as far away from Rigon as Rigon is to Leclerc. And ahead there are back markers who are battling, and it's so busy down to the first chicane.
And that's now really let Rob Bell join into this two-way battle, into a three-way battle. So it'll be interesting to see how the Gulf-painted McLaren can deal with the red and white Ferrari and then the white McLaren of Leclerc.
Now we saw Matteo Cressoni for Vita41 Racing parked at the first chicane, and news is that it was his error, went off, and that's what's put that car out of the race. So he's got some explaining to do when he gets back to the pits and faces the stern stare of the team owner, Michael Bartels. So you're looking at third and fourth and fifth. Antoine Leclerc, having done a very good job of getting himself up into third place, is now defending very strongly from Davide Rigon. For the moment, ignore Audi number one, it's a lap down.
It is a lap down, and it's doing its best to pull away from this battle for third place. Rob Bell dropping back momentarily to avoid any contact that potentially could occur between this battle for third place with David Rigon and Antoine Leclerc as they come up into the Ascari chicane. And the McLaren, the Audi, well, I would have thought the Audi may well have been getting blue flags. It is a lap down. Let's look and see what happened to Ferrari. Oh, that's, yes. There was, I think, one of the cars just ahead of that Ferrari got out of shape going into the chicane. That may well have been the reason why he took evasive action. He's done the right thing by staying to the right of the exit of the chicane.
Hops over the curb, and Giacomo Petrobelli back into the race. As I said early on, he's moving from Pro-Am to Pro for this year, as you've got the third place fight coming out of the Parabolica. They've sorted out Laurens Vanthoor's Audi, that after its puncture is in 49th place, one lap back over the line. Now, is this going to be a chance for Rigon to challenge? As you look at Hans-Guido Riegel, he is Haribo, and the sweet manufacturer adorns the side of the Porsche. Down they come. So we've got now Leclerc for third, Rigon for fourth, and Rob Bell desperately late on the brakes. He's still with them.
Yeah, I think in the end Vanthoor realised that he was getting involved in a battle for third position. He may have well received something from the pit lane to tell him to get out of the way, or he may well have been getting blue flags, which you'd be fully entitled to acknowledge.
The race leader is on lap 21. And again, you're seeing how different cars work around different sections of Monza, as the McLaren is able to pull a length over the Ferrari. And that car in fourth place, the number 44 Ferrari of Kessel Racing, which has always shown good speed in the past. It's really been the pit stops that have let down Kessel Racing. They've lost time in the pits. There's always been an element of confusion that's cost them some time. If they can get the pit stops right, then I think Kessel Racing is going to be a far bigger threat for race wins this year than we've had in previous seasons. Rob Bell, not quite as close as he needs to be, but he might just be waiting to see what pans out ahead of him.
But defence from Leclerc coming up to Ascari. He's gone to the left of the racetrack, opening up the right-hand side, comes back again before he makes his cut into the first of the three curves of the Ascari corners. But look at the Ferrari right on the tail of the McLaren, and a car on the right of track going slowly shouldn't come into play, but Leclerc will certainly hope that has an effect, because he's going to stay middle of the track, forcing the Ferrari wide.
That's one of the Butzer Gignon McLarens, possibly their Vish once again. going slowly. It is. It's number 5 as you've got the third place duel coming out of the Parabolica. And while this is going on, the team manager of cars 1 and 2 is being summoned to the race director. And that car 1 and 2's team is Team WRT Belgian Audi Club. So either Vincent Voss or Pierre Dieudonné are about to go and have a word with the race director. Wonder what it is that they have done wrong in the pits.
Well, it may have been the incident, or not the incident, but the number 1 Audi of Laurens van Voort holding up this battle we are seeing, allowing Rob Bell to close to make it a three-way battle, but still Antoine Leclerc denying David Rigon in the Ferrari the opportunity. A Ferrari and a McLaren sandwich, never a happy moment for Ferrari fans.
Very true indeed. So we've got the cars currently working lap 22. Rob Barth we have been getting excited about with just cause, because he's up into 7th place. There is Vincent Voss, the Belgian former racer himself. Talking to the engineers, Vincent, who despite having certainly some very good circuits at his disposal in Belgium, such as Spa for example, had his very first ever race at Alton Park many moons ago in a Formula Ford 1600. So we are not far away from the end of the first hour of the race, and it is Alex Buncombe who doesn't just lead but has also set the fastest lap of the race thus far.
Well, there's been a very impressive Bob Neville, who runs this Nissan team, Alex Buncombe driving it. And it's a bit of touch of the old British Touring Car Championships with Bob Neville, who was very much a part of that in the late 90s with Alec Poole and others that dominated that period of British Touring Car Championship. But Bob Neville, oh, when the McLaren runs wide, Rob Bell runs very wide coming out of Ascari.
So dramas at Variante Ascari, and down they come towards the Parabolica. Deep intake of breath. You've got 2 back markers squabbling right ahead of the third place battle. Which one do you look at? Well, the back markers have got themselves through safely. And now, here's this third place fight. Antoine Leclerc is doing a very good job, isn't he, in defending this, because David Rigon is right there behind him.
Yeah, I mean, he's been harried all the way, and of course, one of the jobs of a driver doing the chasing is to distract the car that you're pushing, to try and get them to look backwards more than look forwards. But this is going to be difficult. These 2 cars just ahead, about to put a lap down, are going to come into play. Who comes out at the top of these 3 cars? Hold your breath.
They're all bunching up nicely, aren't they, for third place? Leclerc, Rigon, and then Rob Bell. And looks up the road ahead is the sister Gulf Racing McLaren that's going to go a lap down as well. There it is. That's the Mike Wainwright, Andy Merritt car. Now, we've talked about the fact that Vincent Voss's team has somehow upset the race director. Let's catch up with Vincent in the pits with Jack.
Vincent, we're seeing on the screens race director, team principal, that's you. What's going on?
I have no idea. Pierre has been now to the race director. We will have more information in a few minutes.
You don't have any inkling about what it might be about?
No idea.
Cool, thank you.
Well, he says he has no idea, but this is a man who's got his finger on the pulse of the 3 cars in the team. John, he must have some idea what he might have done wrong.
David, I would not want to play poker with Vincent or Vincent Voss, because that was a poker face if you ever saw one.
So where is his best placed car at the moment? You've got to go to 11th and find Christopher Mies, and we are with 2 hours and 17 minutes of the race still to go, looking at some superb fights that go on as Antoine Leclerc makes his way down towards us with Davide Rigon tucked up behind him. They're working their way through traffic, and Rob Bell's now trying to find a gap as well to gain places if possible down to the Parabolica. Leclerc here has managed to escape a little bit, hasn't he? And Rob Bell breathes in, holds his breath, tries to force his way past the slower Ferrari 458, and he's done so. You cannot afford to get stuck behind a back marker for one corner and lose the time, can you?
And once the momentum has gone, it's very difficult to pick it back up again. And of course, if the driver behind has got a half a brain in his head, he will read that situation, he will make his adjustments appropriately, and then hopefully get the run off whatever the corner they're exiting, and use that as an advantage down the following straight.
Number 50 Ferrari, we're looking at that. Nick Hommerson, reigning Pro-Am Cup champion. Alvaro Parent in 13th place. I still think Hexis is running to a fuel strategy here rather than going for outright speed, because that car is just nowhere near, as it now drops to 14th, nowhere near where it should be.
Well, if he's not running to a predetermined strategy, there's going to be a lot of disappointed faces, not least of all Alvaro Parent, the man who's done more mileage in a McLaren MP412C than anybody on this planet, as far as I know.
Former British Formula 3 champion, but now very much a GT driver. Now there you can see damage to the back of the other ART Grand Prix McLaren as it comes up over the timing line. Down towards the first chicane. Want to get past the Ferrari, and they almost touch. Hard on the brakes. Contact avoided.
Yeah, a bit of common sense was played out there, but something at the back is around the diffuser, but it doesn't look to me to be the diffuser itself, but something on the back of that McLaren is flapping. And there it is, it's actually getting worse as we go through the Curva Grande. Hopefully that will not detach. May well see the car having to be brought into the pits to have that rectified.
Gilles Vanderlei is at the wheel, and the car is currently 24th. Ferrari makes a real mess of it ahead, but hangs onto the place.
Well, he hung onto the place only because somebody had gone to sleep behind the wheel of the McLaren, and that was an opportunity that was lost to the McLaren. But it's inevitable, whatever it is dangling from the back of the car, either it's going to fall off very shortly, or the car will have to be brought in to have it removed.
Francisco Guedes was the man bouncing over the curb in the Ferrari, so that shuffles the order a little bit more, as you can now see down towards the Parabolica. Alvaro Perez losing more places because past him goes Enzo Ida in the Audi up on the inside, and that looked easy.
It was easy. I mean, we've seen a number of situations where Alvaro Perez has yielded by consensus a position. He is not racing that McLaren, he is driving it around, as you pointed out, David, probably to a predetermined race strategy.
Let's send Jack up to Hexley, shall we, and ask whether or not this is a plan or whether it's a problem. Let's see, first of all, whether he gets an honest answer.
He'll get an answer. It'll be yes. But
to which bit? Yeah.
Well, exactly.
So for now, Alvaro Perez tumbles down to 15th place, but there are 2.25 hours to go, so don't think the car is going to end up there. Still think this is all part of the master plan. Philippe Dumas, who runs Hexis, really has become one of the top teams in recent times, winning in the GT1 World Championship, in the Blancpain Series, won in Baku at the end of last year in the non-championship race as well. So it's a really top team, and with top drivers behind the wheel.
Well, what do you expect when you have a frustrated racing driver running a team?
Yes.
He's going to be back behind the wheel at a 24-hour race later this year.
Which will be great to see, won't it? As the Hexis McLaren runs, for the moment, in 15th place. Enzo Ida then trying to gain ground. How's Rob Bath getting on in 88? The Von Ryan Racing McLaren.
7th position for Rob. That's a great drive for Rob, I must say.
It is.
Very impressive indeed. Look at this battle going on.
3rd, 4th, back marker, 5th, down to the Parabolica, Antoine Leclerc versus Davide Rigon.
But the Ferrari has got the benefit, I think, because McLaren was so tight on the entry to Parabolica, its corner speed was compromised on the entry. Rigon has not been able to do enough with the opportunity he was given. Rob Bell looks at it and thinks, I'll have a bit of that, but I'm a little bit too far behind, but puts himself out to the left, clean air, and helps the cooling of the car momentarily.
Down to the chicane then. Of course, what Rob Bell doesn't want to do is get too close so that he gets caught up in any silliness ahead of them, but he has closed up under braking. Now, is he going to attack Rigon before Rigon makes another attack on Leclerc? Again, as they come out of the chicane, the Gulf Racing McLaren just loses a length. Early stop for the Black Falcon Mercedes.
Very early indeed. First car we've seen with a driver change. 48 minutes into the race.
19, that is, that has pitted. One of the cars that runs in the Gentleman Trophy, and that therefore means that it's the Oliver Morley, Robert Hissam, Andre Levin car. Andre Levin will be the quicker. Oliver Morley, a class winner last year. Robert Hissam, the Gentleman Trophy champion of last year. Antoine Leclerc, I think it is fair to say, has the world's widest McLaren, because he's managed to hang on to this 3rd place no matter what Davide Rigon has thrown at him.
In fairness, he's not done anything which I would consider to be wrong. He's just used the strengths of his McLaren to mitigate any areas where he may not feel quite so strong. Hasn't made any aggressive moves to block one way or the other, and Davide Rigon in the Ferrari has not been able to really put a heavy move onto him, and the car we really got to focus on now is that Gulf Racing orange and blue McLaren. Rob Bell is in position, and he thinks that there's an opportunity. He might get a pass without even having to make an effort, because will these two cars eventually take each other into difficulty?
This is lap 26, and you're looking at what is a tremendous battle going on for 3rd, 4th and 5th places. 3rd at the moment is the white and red McLaren of Antoine Leclerc. 4th behind him, the red and white Ferrari of Davide Rigon. And 5th, the Gulf Racing McLaren in the hands of Rob Bell. And they have been at it for 3rd place for well over a dozen laps now. And Antoine Leclerc has done a really solid job of hanging on a 3rd place. But now Rigon is under real pressure, because he's got Rob Bell, one of Britain's top GT racers, breathing down his neck.
Yes, the McLaren of Leclerc gets marginally ahead of the Ferrari on the exit of the chicane.
Now, I keep posing this question about hexes. Problem or plan? Let's find out. Philippe Dumas is with Jack.
Philippe, we were expecting a little more pace from you. Have you got a problem?
Yeah, for sure. We have an engine problem. We don't know exactly what is it, but Alvaro are losing quite a lot of time. I think it's 1.5 seconds per lap. It's very difficult. So we'll see during the pit stop if we take something. It's nearly finished.
Thank you.
Well, an engine problem is disappointment. Alvaro Parent, we saw really letting other quicker cars from behind get through without even challenging them. And he acknowledged there's no point in me trying to block a car that clearly is quicker. All I can do is just do what I'm doing right now and get the car to the first round of pit stops. Whether they can do anything during the pit stop to rectify the problem, well, looking at Philippe Dumas' face, I would say no, there's not.
But there are plenty of McLaren engineers here from the factory who might be able to plug in a laptop and reset something, so fingers crossed for them. Otherwise, it'll be a big, big disappointment. Antoine Leclerc being held up a little bit in traffic, and that means that Davide Rigon is getting closer and closer, and it means that Rob Bell is getting closer and closer.
Yeah, Rob Bell needed to be a bit closer than he was. The Mercedes denied McLaren Leclerc the opportunity to get into Parabolica first, so you got 4 cars in line, 2 cars about to be overtaken, to be lapped, and 2 cars squabbling for third place. So the Ferrari, almost like a doppelganger, towing from the back of the McLaren, gets past the Mercedes, but doesn't get past the Porsche. That'll be a disappointment. And Rob Bell likewise fails to get past the Mercedes.
So those back markers are going to have to be sorted out as they power their way now up towards the Curva Grande, then towards the Lesmos. Rob Bell goes to the outside, and now you start to appreciate the relative width of Monza. It becomes very crowded indeed. They've both got to get past as many back markers as possible here at the second chicane. Rigon sorts out the Pro-Speed Porsche, and Rob Bell will pounce on exit.
Yeah, Rob Bell read that pretty well. He was in a difficult situation because the Mercedes was alongside him, but he put himself into the right situation to get the acceleration off the corner, get past the Porsche, and in doing so, the Mercedes and Porsche now, who had their own battle up until a minute ago, have rejoined, and the Mercedes has gained the advantage.
And this is what it's all about, battles all the way up and down the order. We've had another pit stop, incidentally, from one of the leading cars, or relatively leading cars, in as much as for Phoenix Racing, Enzo Ida has bailed out and put Anthony Kumpen into that Audi. That could be a shrewd move, because Kumpen is quicker, and it's going to have Marcus Winkelhock, the reigning GT1 world champion, into the last stint. Bell, meantime, 5th. See how the back markers have broken that up. See how the back markers run out of road at the Variante Ascari.
Maybe a rush of blood to the head. The Mercedes did get ahead of the Porsche literally about 3 corners ago, and now losing it in the Ascari chicane.
This is a problem. Second pit stop in as many laps for the number 9 McLaren, the sister car to this one. Mike Wainwright, Andy Merrick drive 9. 69 is the Bell Carol Verdonk car. Antoine Leclerc swats aside the back marker Ferrari. That gentleman racer had a bit of a wake-up call.
Well, you know, you've just got to be aware of what's going on around you, and the Ferrari driver was slightly caught unawares of the pace of that McLaren of Antoine Leclerc. And he got the message, but probably more through shock than anything else.
Now the Gulf Racing twins sort themselves out. Rob Bell gets ahead of Mike Wainwright's car down at the first chicane. 28 laps are done, and we've not yet had the end of the first hour, but crikey, a lot's happened. It's been action all the way, hasn't it? Certainly that McLaren seems to have a problem as well. As I say, 2 pit stops for Mike Wainwright's car, and it's not looking good for that, is it?
Well, it's been certainly a lot of motor racing on a wonderful racetrack. And I mean, a beautiful day here at Monza, the Royal Park, absolutely pristine. And gradually the place is coming alive. It's been, you know, a racetrack in the winter is the worst place in the world, but once you get a big event like this on, all of a sudden all the atmosphere, and this place oozes atmosphere wherever you are. It is purely magical Monza.
Alex Bunker, meantime, is extending this lead. Remember that when he got the advantage, he was creeping away from Philippe Eng. Now he is 5.9 seconds to the good, and he needs to build up this lead because we know that he's got a very inexperienced co-driver in Steve Doherty, so they need to minimise the time lost there.
Well, it's been an absolutely wheel-perfect drive so far from Alex Buncombe. He's done all he had to do. When he got into the second position into turn 1 on the opening lap, he harried Philippe Eng in the McLaren for the best part of 15-18 laps, got through down into turn 1, super move, and there we see McLaren now in the pits.
Mark Hayek's Lamborghini, he is going to give way to Peter Cox, and Mark Hayek will have to get in to do the last stint because of the way that it works in Pro-Am. If you are a amateur racer compared to the Pro, the onus is on the Am to do the bulk of the work. So now Peter Cox will drive in the only way he knows, which is flat out. He'll haul that car up the order. They are class winners in the past in the Pro-Am category, and you discount the Blancpain Racing Lamborghini at your peril. There is the race leader on lap 30 at Monza. It is Alex Buncombe going strongly in the RJN, the Bob Neville team Nissan.
And looking just so comfortable behind the wheel of the Nissan, taking the lead, 7.2 seconds. He's managed to almost every lap now pull out on 2 or 3 tenths advantage over second place McLaren of Philippe Eng. And the only difficulty he has is to make sure that he monitors where he catches the slow traffic, and one of the lights on the Audi pops out under braking, such as the G-force.
That's the car with Anthony Kumpen now behind the wheel of it, and Christopher Mies is running with it. They're on different laps because of the pit stops. Christopher Mies, car 13, reigning champion, remember. He's in 11th place. He was with Stephane Ortelli last year, now switches to a different car, and it means that he is with Frank Schnippler and Edward Sandstrom. Ignore that out at your peril as well, because that's another very good combination of drivers.
Edward Sandstrom, believe me, is very impressive.
And Frank Schnippler, winner of the Spa 24 Hours last year. Now, number 2 Audi has just pitted. That was the car that was started by Rahel Frey. And we will have now Nicky Marmelhoff behind the wheel of that car that has rejoined in 33rd place. As ever, the Blancpain Endurance Series is giving us lots to talk about, whether it's on the track or in the pit lane. Bas Linders in 9th, we just got a glimpse of in the Mark VDS Racing BMW. And this is how balletic a pit stop can be. As Mark Hayek gets out, Peter Cox, the Dutchman, is ready to get in. Mark ducks underneath the fuel hose. Peter Cox clambers over that side impact bar, gets into the car, threads his way through that narrow gap, and of course has got to do this and do up his belt in the quickest possible time.
Well, getting in and out of our current GT car, believe me, is not easy. There are tubes in the chassis for crash protection. Car off at Parabolica, we can't see who it is, but lots of dust. One of the Ferraris off again.
57 it is that's gone missing, and that is Giacomo Petrobelli. Not for the first time in the race, Giacomo's had a moment.
Now we're seeing those 2 Ferraris having contact down the Parabolica earlier in the event.
Race leader is into the pit lane. Alex Buncombe has pitted after 30 laps. Now this is one to look for, because if that's what they could do in a stint, 30 laps, and it's not quite at the hour, that's with 3 minutes to go before the end of the hour. That could be significant on fuel.
I think the latter part of this race, we've seen just a phenomenal pace. So I think the latter part of the race will be a little bit slower.
Now there is your Hexis Racing McLaren. What can be done? There was the leading car.
Yes, one of the McLaren engineers dived in to that car, whether he can plug something in time and see if they can affect any change. As the tyre change goes on the lead car, the left front comes off, the new one goes back on, and 2 people only permitted to make these pit stops, these tyre changes.
It would make sense, wouldn't it, to put Steve Doherty in for the middle stint and then put Lucas Ordonez in for the end in 35. No doubt that's what Bob Neville has factored into his equation. So this puts Philippe Eng into the lead, and that's Petrobelli again. Giacomo, what are you doing?
At least he's consistent.
But at the end of last year...
And that's down a second chicane.
Just to say, at the end of last year, in the Blancpain website, I was asked to do some driver rankings of those in the Pro-Am, and I put Giacomo very highly up the order. Well, I'm afraid he's having a nightmare day here. What's he done? He's got up the escape road. He's had a big lose.
Lost it under brakes, completely spun the car around, crashed into those... Well, those are the barriers that are mandatory on Formula 1 circuits. Very scientific, and anyway, no serious damage to the Ferrari, but how did he get it so badly wrong under braking into the second chicane?
Can I offer you a thought? We've just seen it come out of the gravel at the Parabolica. Was that dirty tyres?
By the time he got down to the second chicane, they should have been relatively clean. May not have been ideal, but he may have just made a mistake and just locked it up and got it spinning. And once it's doing that, then he just has to wait until the energy in Mercedes taking the short route doesn't gain anything doing it. But the danger was that he might have picked up a little bit of time at the BMW, now getting alongside, but the BMW is ahead.
Philippe Eng, who was leading, has now pitted a minute before the hour. So 44 is the new race leader, and that means that the Ferrari can go at least one more lap over the hour mark.
And that will be key to the final 1 hour of this 3-hour endurance event at Monza. David Regan pushed hard. He wasn't sparing the Ferrari when he was chasing Antoine Leclerc in the McLaren, and still able, as we now get to the conclusion of the first hour.
Now, there are still quite a few others that haven't pitted, but increasingly we're getting cars into the pit lane. Number 11, Antoine Leclerc, has come in on 31 laps, and so too Rob Bell. Number 69 is in. So 31 looks to be at the moment the magic number for some. If you can go more than 31 laps, let's see how far this Ferrari can go, because don't forget, Davide Rigon has been pushing in that battle. He's been using a lot of fuel.
Absolutely, but just indicates that the Ferrari is efficient as well as quick. Just getting an idea for the Alex Buncombe, the lead Nissan would be, and currently it is still, well, I don't think, still in the pits, in fact. No, it's not, it's back out on track, but dropping down all the time.
What is interesting, John, is that number 77, Philippe Eng, is still in the pits. There's a problem for 77. It's not rejoined, and there are other people that have pitted behind who have rejoined the race. So 77, after Philippe Eng's stellar first stint, it's all going a bit pear-shaped down in the pit lane at the moment. Davide Rigon leads, and he's done another lap. He's on lap 33 now.
Whew.
Almost time for a deep breath.
Well, I tell you, what a quick 1 hour that's been.
Now there is the troubled Eng car. It's well, that's one of the problems. It's stuck, it's blocked in, but they're still working on that car.
Not a lot of space in the pit lane when you get your sister team. In fact, what teams try to do is work together. The car that's ahead of you and the car that's directly behind you, ensure that, if possible, you don't come in on the same lap. But the Porsche are trying to make a little bit of space for the McLaren when it will eventually make its way back on track. But whatever they're doing on the McLaren, it doesn't look like there's any big rush. It's going to be out in the track quickly.
Going back to Hexes for a moment, 31st the car now is. Steph Dusseldorf at the wheel. Whatever they tried to do, did it work, did it not? They've sent the car back out. But this car is stuck. It can't go forwards. This is just a disaster. Whatever they do...
Well, the McLaren can't push the McLaren backwards either.
This is a night. I mean, drivers leaving the car in front have nowhere to go. Why can't it go backwards?
Because it's in gear and they can't get the car out of gear. Whatever happened when the car was brought in by Philippe Eng, he may well have left the car in gear. Now they've got it disengaged, push the car back. How much time have they lost with that little item alone? Best part of half a minute.
Davide Rigon has pitted after doing 33 laps in that Ferrari. Well, he's gone over the hour mark.
You might well say he's in the petrol seat or the gasoline seat, being able to go so deep into the end of the first hour as the former lead car, another Porsche ride.
Now, which one's that? From Pereira's car that Eric Dermont started. That was the one we saw with that little blaze, and he pitted early on in the race. And now it's parked. Right, let's try and recap where we are. Well, no, let's not bother, because we've still got more pit stops to worry about. And this is how Dermont went off at the chicane. That was a very obvious assist.
Yeah, but the Ferrari comes down the inside, out of control, slams into the side of the Porsche. And poor Porsche did nothing wrong, but was taken out by just somebody being rather just plain stupid, frankly.
So 72 it was that was the aggressor, Boris Rothenberg. So Davide Rigon is in the pit lane. And of course it'll be a driver change as well as refuelling and a tyre change. So we'll let these pit stops settle down, then we'll worry about the race order. But Pro Tem is going to put Daniel McKenzie in the Aston Martin into the lead of the race.
Aston Martin leading an endurance race at Monza takes you back to the days of Sterling Moss and Tony Brooks.
And you used to listen to it on your radio, John, as a small boy.
I got their autographs.
There you go, you see. So Daniel McKenzie will lead, and up into second will go Henri Moser. Rob Barth's stint has come to an end. Jordan Grogar has taken over 88. Right, there's 35. So it was Alex Buncombe's excellent first stint that got the car into the lead. The timing screen still shows Alex Buncombe at the wheel of 35, but I would dispute that. I guess it's Steve Doherty now. There is 44 back into the race, and Cesar Ramos will take over that car.
There is the car that was the former race leader. The Nissan showing it well all the way down, and then it's off the screen.
So There's the Nissan over the timing line. There is the race leader going down towards the second chicane. And Lucas Ordonez has been put into the Nissan, intriguingly. So the theory is you have your faster driver in at the end in case you need him for a safety car, but they seem to have bucked that trend. We'll see whether that's a good or a bad call late race.
Well, Nissan did a good job with Alex Buncombe, who clearly is the fastest driver, and he led this race. But this car, the Ferrari that was being driven by David Rigon, was now looking comfortable, I would say. The balance of driver performance in that car better than that of the Nissan.
Henri Moser has just pitted, incidentally, in the number 4 BMW. That's done 34 laps, so that's an hour and 5 minutes. That's pretty good. So for the moment, the top 2 in the classification are both in the pits. That's the second-placed car. 99 Aston that had inherited the lead is in the pits as well. So that should put Davide Rigon's car, now with Cesar Ramos at the wheel of it, back into the lead of the race.
And they've got Daniel Zamperi to get into the car for the final stint. So everything looking comfortable right now for the Kessel Racing Ferrari number 44.
With 1 hour and 55 minutes of the race still to go. Nico Verdonk has taken over number 69 from Rob Bell, so they're going to keep their secret weapon, not so secret really, Adam Carroll, for that last stint. He's going to be one to watch, isn't he?
I'll tell you what, I bet you right now they're tying into the seat. He'll be absolutely desperate to get behind the wheel of the McLaren. Adam Carroll, one of the quickest race drivers in anything he's ever put his body into. He is just an outstanding bit of flame on the side of the... Is that from the rear wheel, rear brakes?
Yeah. So that's Mark DDS Racing's Henri Moser car. Go, 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 says the chief mechanic. Over the line comes Ordonez, flashing his lights at the back markers to say, don't get in my way. I'm in a big, big, big hurry.
8th place for the Nissan.
There's the Beach Dean ice cream, Aston in the background. Andrew Howard, the man that owns the company, he has taken the car over. Stays ahead of the Mark VDS BMW, quite intriguingly. Tell you who's benefited most on these pit stops, the Gulf Racing McLaren. Nico Verdonk is ahead of Ramos. That's going to put the Gulf McLaren into the lead of the race.
Well, the Gulf McLaren was always a strong car, 3 really good drivers, and once that settled down, Rob Bell did the opening stint, didn't overdrive the car, didn't overuse it, handed over to Nico Verdonk in very good shape indeed. Oh, a Lamborghini goes round, doesn't touch the barrier. Yes, it does.
Peter Cox, you don't do things like that.
Was that an assist, or was it just all down to Peter Cox?
Well, put it in your diary if it was a mistake from Peter, because they don't come along very often.
And he's going to have trouble getting it off, because the rear wing is actually, the back of the wing is caught over the back of the barrier, apart from anything else that may be done to that car.
Plus the gravel at the front. I was about to tell you that the Philip Eng McLaren was in 45th place after that woeful pit stop. There it is. So ignore that car completely now from the classification for the win, because that pit stop cost it round about 3 laps.
Well, I mean, the car must have been stuck in gear. They couldn't move it forward because clearly the Porsche blocked them. They couldn't push it back because the car wouldn't go back. And all the hard work from the young Austrian driver, really, I mean, it's so frustrating.
So there's your leader, Nico Verdonk, a car that we were talking about in 5th place for the bulk of the first hour. But on the pit stops, that car has come up into the lead of the race. Second behind is the Kessel Racing Ferrari of Ramos. And then in 3rd place, you've got number 11, and that now is Mike Parisi. So these 3 that were battling, you've jumbled the order again.
Yeah, I mean, great job by McLaren, great job by Ferrari. They've turned the cars around quickly. McLaren gaining the advantage, having been the 3rd of the 3-car battle with the Ferrari caught between Leclerc's McLaren. As you say, they've now reversed positions. So can Ferrari do something to the Gulf McLaren that the Ferrari couldn't do to the previous McLaren of Antoine Leclerc?
Lawrence Vantor, incidentally, after his puncture, up to 8th, but now has pitted. A replay of drama at the Parabolica. Peter Cox getting it wrong there.
That's why he
got there, yeah.
That was a straight, but couldn't work. I mean, to run, I mean, the exit of the Parabolica is not an issue. Peter Cox more than likely just let the car run wide to free the car up on the exit of the turn to get the maximum in contact between a Mercedes and a Ferrari, and that is looking to me to be on the exit of the Parabolica possibly.
Yeah. So it's the Mercedes, one of the 2 Black Falcon Mercedes from the Gentleman Trophy. It's number 19, in fact, and that means that it's Andre Lebed at the wheel of it, and 52 is the Ferrari, and that is the Lionel Como car. So both in the Gentleman Trophy, not gentlemanly racing. This is for the lead. Over the line comes Nico Verdonk. Up the inside goes Cesar Ramos. It's going to be Ferrari into the lead. Great move.
Very strong indeed. Cesar Ramos weighed that up perfectly. Got the run on the McLaren down into the chicane, put it down the inside. Clean, overtaking, good motor racing, but slightly disappointing. Verdonk gave it up that easily.
Another car to look for lower down. Jelmer Berman has taken over the number 3 Mark VDS BMW, but all eyes on this lead battle because Nico Verdonk wants to get the McLaren back ahead if he can of the flying Ferrari. 44, Cesar Ramos at the wheel of it. And again, as we saw earlier on, McLaren good at certain parts of the circuit, Ferrari good at other parts of the circuit.
Well, clearly you could just see on the exit of the second chicane, the Ferrari got the initial drive off the corner. Now remember, the McLaren is a turbocharged engine, a turbocharged V8. The Ferrari is a naturally aspirated V8, and whether the issues are to do because the boost pressure is also a big element of the balance of performance for the turbocharged cars in endurance racing.
Now, number 8 Porsche, which has now got Mike Stursberg at the wheel of it. There it is. It's currently running 29th, and behind on the road is the ART McLaren. Another team that has gone through the growing pains with those cars, getting quicker and quicker and better developed all the time. So what a good fight. Ferrari versus McLaren up front. And the ART McLaren, the best placed of those at the moment, in third. Antoine Leclerc has given way to Mike Parisi now.
Mike Parisi certainly getting the lights going, trying to attract the attention of the Porsche. Please let me through, don't delay my progress. Mike Parisi had an off on that car yesterday down at the second chicane. He said under brakes the car just suddenly lost control. He doesn't really fully understand what it was. He does drive the Sebastien Loeb McLaren in the GT Series. The difference is between the teams rather than the actual car itself. It's just how the two teams approach the particular tasks.
Now up front, Cesar Ramos is getting away, isn't he? He's also put a back marker between himself and Nico Verdonk. And that's at the first chicane.
Yeah.
He's skipping the chicane itself up the escape road. That's one of the Audis,
yes,
I think.
It is. One of the Audis went down there. We didn't quite get the number of the car. But again, has to be aware that traffic behind as we see how far. Well, that's maybe the second of the two Gulf McLarens. That's not the 69 car. No, that's it.
Aston Martin behind as well. You can see car 80, which is the young driver AMR entry, Laurence Fry, Freddie Bart, Gabriele Gardel. That car is within the top 20 for the moment. Let's just keep an eye to what's going on up front, and we know it's Ferrari ahead of McLaren. Lower down the order, where are the next battles to look for? I still think car 3 is worth keeping an eye to. Jelmer Berman at the wheel of it. And also number 16 Audi is one to look for. Anthony Kumpen took over that car early and is currently in 6th place. But for the moment, as we start this second stint, John, one or two of the gaps have opened up a little bit as this new crop, this new intake of drivers just gets into the groove.
Well, the thing that maybe is most surprising to me is that Cesar Ramos in the Ferrari 44 has actually pulled a gap over Nico Verdonk in the Gulf Racing McLaren. I thought that McLaren, having had the advantage, would have done better than it did. But Cesar Ramos doing a strong job. Mike Parisi in third place. I'm just looking to see that until they get the corrected times as they come across the start-finish line for everything to cycle through. The gap between first and second place currently 3.8 seconds, and then it's a further 12 seconds back to third place.
Catch up on one or two things from the pit lane. WRT accused of not having a fire extinguisher when Lawrence Vanthoor came in with that puncture, but they were able to prove to the officials that there was a fire extinguisher, so everything was good in that pit stop, and therefore no further action is taken. The story ends there, but that was why Pierre Giordone had to go and see the race director.
Oh well.
So a rather overzealous marshal you could blame for that one.
Well, I mean, today motorsport is governed in an entirely different way to that's going back to many years in the past. and a part of that is that there are regulations that are very, very strictly interpreted, and if a marshal is uncertain, he might well make a report, and then the team have got to go and explain it and prove that that wasn't the case. It's life these days, it's life.
Well, these regulations are there for a reason, but yes, the team able to get away with that or prove that it wasn't a problem. And the race continues. Giacomo Petrobelli, incidentally, has now pitted, but that car has not rejoined. It makes you think that there was a fair bit of damage after it had butted the tyres. And after we saw, 3 spins from Giacomo, he was given a driving standards flag just to tell him to calm down a bit. A bit like closing the stable door after the horse has legged it, that, isn't it?
It's a shame, but that's, well, you've got gentlemen racing drivers, you've got semi-professional, and you've got the professionals. And what we're seeing now is a professional looking his way past a slower car, but wisely, not certain that the Porsche was aware that the Ferrari may come down the inside, opted not to take the opportunity, drop back, and he's got an advantage of just over 4 seconds on second place Nico Verdonk. That's good, intelligent motor racing.
Now looking further down the order, 35 is making a little bit of progress. 35 is currently running in 5th place, and it's the Lucas Ordóñez Nissan lapping a bit quicker than those ahead. There's a question in here somewhere as to why Lucas Ordóñez lost time in the pits, because Alex Bunker brought it in the lead, and it rejoined way down the order. So that's another one that's a bit of a puzzle. It may have been that there was some drama in the pits, it may have been that it was just boxed in, but either way, the Nissan, after Alex Bunker's cracking first stint, was dealt a bad deck of cards, bad deal of the hand in that pit stop. It's lost chunks of time. So car 35 is 5th behind Frank Stippler. The race order: 44 Ferrari, Cesar Ramos leads. 69 McLaren, Nico Verdonk 2nd. 11 McLaren is 3rd, Mike Parisi. 4th is Frank Stippler. Never discount Frank Stippler in the Audi. And then in 5th place, Lucas Ordóñez. And 6th, Anthony Kumpen. And we know that he's a fiery driver. So there's an awful lot still can pan out of this race, that's for sure, John.
Absolutely, and 2 of the Audis in the top 6. But Frank Stippler, one of those racing drivers that always flies below the radar, always manages to get a good performance out of a car in an unspectacular manner, but just goes about his profession in a proper professional way. Bodywork on that Audi looks like it's about to detach. That's the second time we've seen an Audi with problems from the bottom. That may be due to contact. I might give it a look at it, but certainly it is not located securely.
As they run in a team entry, and
well, maybe that was the car. That might have been the car that had the bodywork fly off in the first place, and the replacement bodywork not actually properly attached.
Could well be, couldn't it? Lucas Ordóñez in that Nissan, just to pick up on the point, he leads the Pro-Am Cup at the moment, the leading gentleman trophy car. You have to look a fair way down the order, but it's the ARC Bratislava Porsche of Miro Konopka and the Omani driver Ahmed Al-Hati in 23rd place outright as 42 Audi hustles on. Peter Cox in the middle of that battle pack look has rejoined after his spin, and he is lapping and being lapped, and it's just so busy. 3 wide, they come out of the Parabolica. Peter Cox lines up for the inside line and tries to carve his way through the traffic. The Jones brothers, Mercedes in the front of that group. What a spectacle.
Would you want to be in the position of the Jones brothers with a 6-5 car charge coming behind you and Peter Cox amongst them?
Well, the Joneses are not easily overtaken. 34th they are. And there's the number 4 BMW, which Marcus Paltela currently is behind the wheel of, and he is 8th, but he's going after Jordan Grogar, and that 58 is the Kelders De Bruyere Porsche that's facing the wrong way at the Variante Ascari. That's always a strong car in the Gentleman Trophy, but less so when it's in the gravel.
And driving against the flow of traffic, not advisable, not really permissible, but he wants to try and do a bit of a donut to get the car back on track, but limited amount of visibility. He needs the marshals to give him the indication. But look further back through this battle with the BMW really getting mullered. Oh, a spin!
That's the Royal Motorsport car that spun, the 43 BMW. And there, Marcus Paltela goes through on the inside and takes the place away from Jordan Grogar. And right with them as well is the number 50 Ferrari, and that has now got Mauricelli at the wheel of it, so they didn't rule that one out either. The number 50 Ferrari, part of that battle.
Old banked circuit at Monza. You don't often get to see that, least of all see a driver making his way back to the pits on what was part of the original Monza circuit layout, both a banked circuit and a road circuit, and how wonderful it is to see it. That's coming through the Curva Grande, and the banking was on the outside of the original circuit.
introduced for the Race of Two Worlds, the Monza race. Peter Cox goes ahead of Godfrey Jones down at the Parabolica, and that therefore is a change of place. That's 34th. And off again has gone 123 Ferrari. We saw that go wide at the Lesmo curves earlier on. Now it's off at the Parabolica.
Again, it's going to need assistance to be removed from that part of the track. Paltala trying to make a move on the Ferrari one way, then back. The Ferrari goes to the left. The BMW hoping to get up alongside as it comes down into the braking zone. Looks like he might have enough of well, not an advantage, but track position, and he has.
And behind is Louis Mackiels. And look at the way that Mackiels is going in the Pro-Am class Ferrari. He's a very quick gentleman racer, Louis Mackiels. Jordan Grogard there, having taken over from Rob Bath, losing places, as you would, to be fair, expect. He's not as quick a driver as Rob. And look at that Vita 4-1 BMW getting closer and closer to the pace now. Stefano Colombo at the wheel of it, and he is in 12th overall. Where to look next? The lead gap is extending, 5.6 seconds.
Down the inside.
That's Mackiels trying to be a hero and get 7th off Paltala. And there's more heroics as the Ferraris try not to trip over themselves. Paltala has done it. He's managed to hang on to that place and keep Mackiels behind him, therefore. Everywhere you look, there's a fight, and that's what this race should be all about. Stefano Colombo works his way through traffic. The Ferraris tripping over themselves. The BMW just nips up the inside.
I mean, this is meant to be a 3R endurance. This is a 3R, no rules. It's just flat-out racing. Whether you're a gentleman, Pro-Am, or professional driver, absolutely. Red, yellow flag wave as they come up to the Ascari chicane.
That, I think, is for the De Bruyne Porsche, isn't it, that we saw go off, and I don't think has rejoined.
No, I think you're probably right. That car was pointing the wrong way. It didn't look like it was going to make much change.
So that is Anthony Kumpen flashing his lights. But let's update on Nissan. Alex Buncombe is out of the car in the pits with Jack Nicholls.
Alex, great first stint from you, but lost a bit of time in the pit stops?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the start, I think it was the start of my career. I just got the throttle right on the lights, and I went to the left of the Audi and just had to run on the whole pack in front of me. And I thought I had the lead, but the McLaren just got out of the first corner in front of me. So I followed him for a while and managed to eventually get him into turn one, and then just got my head down and tried to put some good laps in.
And then what happened at the pit stops? Because you came in with a reasonably comfortable advantage, but you dropped back now.
Yeah, I don't really know. I was at the back, unfortunately, but yeah, it sounded like we lost about 30 seconds in the stop. I'm yet to go and have a word with the team manager, but I think we lost about 30 seconds, which is a shame. We're now back in P5, but Lucas is there in the car now, and he's doing a fantastic job. So.
Still leading Pro-Am, not all too bad.
Absolutely. It's a real long way to go still, so we'll see what we can do.
Cool. Thank you.
A long way to go translates as 1 hour and 38 minutes. 5th overall, class lead, as you just heard, for Alex Buncombe. 41 Audi is up the escape road at the first chicane, and that car has got a problem. It's going no further. That's the Marc Saud, Pierre Hershey, Tony Gosselin car. It is going. They've had a chat with the marshals, and 41 rejoins.
So that car released and travelling cautiously as it rejoins the racetrack, trying to do everything possible to stay out of the way of those cars that are in a battle. There's a battle going on. Going down into Parabolica, Audi having a sniff down the inside, doesn't have enough speed to do it. The Nissan, that was the lead car, now down in Ordonez in 10th place.
But Ordonez is on the tail of Frank Stipper, isn't he, as they come up over the timing line. So this is another battle that's developing nicely. Stipper in the Audi 4th, Ordonez behind him 5th as they come through. It's 0.3 of a second, that's all between them. And Frank Stipper in the Audi laps the Ferrari as they dive down towards turn 1, but he's also going to try and keep that Nissan behind him. Hard on the brakes.
Well, the Nissan had the speed to get past the McLaren in the straight. Whether it will have the speed to do the same in the Ferrari appears to be that little bit more slippery on the quicker parts of the racetrack, but it's the drive of the Nissan, that massive V8 power, and look at the size of the two cars. One's a proper 4-seater GT, and the other's a little hot rod you take the babe out for a run on a Sunday afternoon.
And the Nissan, giant of a car, just manages to secure that place and put the Ferrari behind it going into the second chicane. Lucas Ordonez then, one of the first winners, the first winner of the PlayStation Academy, now sets off behind Frank Stipler. You have to get up pretty early in the morning to outdo Frank Stipler, whether it's a GT car, the DTM touring car of years past, or even historic touring cars and sports cars these days. He's bang on the money.
Absolutely, great driver, loves his historic racing. I mean, it's very difficult to drive modern race cars. Even these GT cars have got a ton of downforce compared to the race cars of the 60s and 50s that Frank Stippler drives so successfully.
Last year at the Nürburgring, he was on duty for Audi in September at the FIA GT1 World Championship penultimate weekend, and having done his work on the Saturday, he nipped over the border to go and race an E-Type in the Spa 6 hours into the darkness, came back on the Sunday and carried on racing a modern GT car. That's commitment.
That is commitment and a true love of motorsport, and if anything is going to do your head in, it's driving an E-Type round Spa.
So he's fourth, and that man, Lucas Ordóñez, is fifth. The Audi we saw going up the escape road is there in the background, look, limping to the pit lane, including Gosselin, one-time Formula 3000 racer, bringing it in. Ordóñez has lost time on that, hasn't he, because of traffic? Oh, crikey, look at this! Monza is full! Godfrey Jones is still under siege in the Mercedes, coming to the Parabolica. Behind him was Jelmer Burman in the number 3 BMW. Jordan Grogar in the 88 McLaren is in 9th place and doing a very good job. Here in the wet last year behind the safety car, Jordan crashed with the power kicking in that Mercedes, and it really whacked his confidence as much as the car whacked the barrier. But he's had a year of tutelage from Rob Bath, and he's a much stronger driver now.
Well, when you're in a situation like this and there are so many cars around you, you've just got to be able to keep your concentration, be consistent where you put your car. Don't try and be clever or try and do something silly, as the BMW makes its way past in 7th place.
Up front, Cesar Ramos still leads the way, 6.5 seconds up on Nico Verdonk. Nico, another graduate of the Belgian Touring Car Series and then Formula Le Mans before he came into GT racing. Godfrey Jones in the Mercedes there, 33rd.
And doing a nice job.
Yeah.
Two gentlemen drivers, twins, and how would you know which one's in the car unless you weren't looking at the screen?
They are identical twins, and they live in the same street. They used to go rallying together. When they came into circuit racing in Porsches, they used to share a car.
Do you think if one of the twins made an error, the other twin would automatically do the same error? Are they that identical?
That's a good thought. Well, they are both drivers in the same style, let me put it that way. They are both very committed, they are very forceful. And up the inside there goes Jelmer Burton, Marcus Paltler in the 4 BMW. That, of course, is not for position, that's Lapri, so Godfrey Jones keeps out of the way. The Joneses enjoy motor racing. They've got a McLaren for British GT and a Mercedes for Blancpain.
Sounds a pretty good life to me, and you've got two great race cars. One's a little bit more of a hot rod. The Mercedes, the car that will guarantee you to go the duration.
Louis Machiels getting past the Joneses. There's Bas Linders looking at the progress of his car, number 3. It was down in 13th place. That lost out, I think, on the pit stops as well, somehow, along the line. So, over the timing line has gone the leading gaggle of cars. And we're looking at number 16, Anthony Kumpen, going through ahead of Paltler. In the background, Jordan Grugar, he's trying to work his way through traffic. Grugar up the inside of the Ferrari there. Machiels is 8th, Grugar is in 9th place, and then rounding out the top 10 at the moment is the Martin Jensen Ferrari, the Insight racing car that tends to be a bit anonymous, but it just gets on with the job. And there is drama at the Parabolica. 26. It's Colombo in the Vita 4-1. Z4 off at the Parabolica has gone Stefano Colombo, and that's not an easy place to recover from. The marshals are going to push him onto the track.
Yeah, and flag marshals waving, but I'm not persuaded that everybody is actually slowing down as one would require you to do. And a car that's being pushed by the marshals onto the race line, not a happy situation. Need to be more respect for drivers as they come in through the corner. Still haven't cleared the BMW. It's in a position that it's very difficult for the marshals to push it onto the racetrack. Again, 90 degrees to the flow of traffic. But not a particularly vigorously waved yellow flag under the braking zone on the entry into Parabolica. A little bit more at the scene of the incident. And really only two marshals there able to do anything. One a fire marshal with a helmet on and looking somewhat or 3 of them in fact looking somewhat forlornly at the situation.
Remember the car that started on pole position as you look at the BMW losing plenty of time at the Parabolica. It had a driver change. It is in 11th place, so don't rule it out once you get Pierre Guidi back behind the wheel. But this is just proving impossible to get 26 back in the race, John.
But I'm sitting here literally. I hate to see a car being pushed like this, 90 degrees to the flow of traffic. drivers are not slowing down, in my opinion. The marshal said, forget it. We can't do any more. That's potentially safety car deployment.
But it's also a heavy car. Look, the marshal's got to put his weight against the barrier. He just can't shift it. It's slightly banked, isn't it? It's slightly uphill for him.
Yeah,
and it's a big, heavy car. Forget it.
Yeah,
that's it.
But is that a case for a safety car? He's got the engine running. He's found reverse gear, and he's managed to. But the steering lock in these cars is very restricted. But now that he's bumped into the Amco barrier just to ease everybody's pain, the safety car has been deployed. To me, that was the solution. But now it's been deployed at the point the car has actually rejoined the racetrack. It should have been deployed a lap or so ago. It's 1 lap too late.
It's Murphy's Law, isn't it? As soon as you make the call, then, of course, the car gets going. And also, it has not picked up the leading car. Now, the regulations say you don't have to pick up the leader, but it is desirable. The safety car is scrambled, and it has picked up back markers. Puncture, 23 Nissan with a puncture.
Is that opportune or not?
Sure, well, by the look of it, it's happened near the end of the lap as well. Lucas Law at the wheel of it. So down the pit lane comes 23 with his punctured tyre, and the safety car is out for number 26. It's only going to be... Now, the problem is, the safety car is going to have to let the traffic go to find the leader, to then come into the pit lane. It's going to take longer to get the cars in the right order to restart the race than restart the race, because there's now no reason for the safety car. The problem is going to be getting everybody, certainly the leading car, behind it, and then sorting out this neutralisation.
I think if there's any hesitation or doubt about deployment of a safety car, you've got to do it, and do it early. There was hesitation, understandably why there was hesitation, but the position that the BMW was in right at the critical point of the corner was so, in my opinion, critical that you don't have any thought. You just say deployment now. But I would say that many drivers were guilty of not slowing down or respecting the yellow flags to the level the situation deserved.
So there's some sympathy for Bernard Cottrell, the race director. He does the right thing. Better that somebody says, why did you deploy the safety car, than why didn't you? And the safety car is on track. Now it has to let the back markers by so it can find the leading car. And once it's done that, and you've got a line of cars behind it, then you're good to go.
Now this is what I was talking about. Cars sitting 90 degrees, being pushed, but in fact it's now under its own steam. Like, look, the Mercedes comes through. Now he had been through there before. Previous time the car had been close, tight against the barriers. Driver had thought, oh, wave yellow flag, still no problem. Oh, the car's now midway in the racetrack. Take avoiding action. You've just got to be sharper than that behind the wheel when there's a wave yellow flag at a particular blind corner.
Safety car is in this lap, so it was, as predicted, a fairly brief interruption. Funny, isn't it? 60 cars into the first corner. They got away with that. One car spins at the parabolica. That means a safety car. But it's going to be, in this time, we're going to go back to racing. So, a momentary lull, that's all.
Cesar Ramos and Nico Verdonk will be able to rejoin this battle, and all the good work that Cesar Ramos has done to build up the advantage that he had. It was up to just about 6 seconds over the second place McLaren. And there we see the lead Ferrari, but there may be traffic, although it's only a gap. In fact, the Nissan between it, a Ferrari. In fact, there's 3 cars between first and second.
Exactly so, and those are the cars that Nico Verdonk is going to get past. And they're actually pretty quick cars as well. They come from Pro and Pro-Am, so they're not going to be easy to get past. Whereas now, look, Verdonk's under pressure because they're right up behind him is Mike Parisi as they come over the line, and Parisi is in a big hurry as well.
Well, Mike Parisi may well be thinking, I can sniff a second place here. He's just got to get away around the Porsche, and of course, he's found himself slightly compromised on the entry into first chicane, and drops back behind the car that he's chasing, the second place Ferrari of McLaren of Nico Verdonk.
So Cesar Ramos now released. He's going to try and build up this gap once again. Nico Verdonk trying to work his way through the back markers. And yet again, there's a car in the gravel. Safety cars breed safety cars, don't they? That's the surviving Pro-Speed Porsche. It's 48, the American car.
McLaren.
That's the number 9 Merrick Wainwright car.
Well, those 2 cars come together because there's 2 separate incidents. The Porsche off on one part of the track, McLaren certainly on the exit of the Ascari chicane. We couldn't quite see where the Pro-Speed Porsche was, and it looks to me like there's bodywork potentially on the exit of the Ascari chicane, right in the middle of the track.
Well, that's the Ascari chicane, as you say. I think the Porsche is off at the Lesmo curves, but we'll check. But either way, that has hit the barrier. It's on the track. We've got the safety car once again.
Now this time, instantly deployed.
But with a car like that facing the wrong way, and it's not even trying to rejoin, is it? So straight away the race director knows that something is not quite right. Driver getting out of the car now and walks away. And Andy Merrick is the man that was driving it. Andy doesn't often do things like that, so what has caused a very, very quick pro driver to go off like that?
We may well get a review because there are cameras all around the racetrack, so we will get hopefully a look at what caused Andy Merrick and the McLaren, the second of the Gulf racing cars, to enter. The exit of the Ascari chicane is pretty quick, but you've got lots of downforce. Unless there was something that was beyond the control of the driver, it's not normally part of the racetrack you expect to see a driver get caught out, with the exception of you overrun the curb. Look, there's the barrier. Well, that barrier has been almost penetrated by whatever hit it. If that was the McLaren, you can nearly see it. Well, that's as bad an impact on the barrier. And I just wonder, will they ever consider, do they need to replace that barrier? That's a situation got to be considered.
Yes, I was just thinking about that. Is that going to be a reason to keep the safety car out for a bit longer, to do some barrier repairs? Well, the officials will have a look at that. The Blancpain Endurance Series team of officials will work with the regular Monza team. Now have a look in the top right of the screen. That's where the Variante Ascari exit is. And Andy Merrick charges out of the corner, runs wide, and he swaps ends and across, and oh wow, into the barrier.
Yeah, he was, as I anticipated, he'd run wide coming out of the exit of the three-corner Ascari curves, ran the curve, the car just got into, and not a slide he couldn't control. The back end of the car went round. There we see the car being quickly recovered, but the damage to the barrier is my concern, because that may well be sufficient that they have to replace the upper and middle tiers of that barrier to ensure that the gap that has opened up isn't there, because if it was left as it is and another car hit it, potentially it could lead to a very serious incident indeed.
Exactly. So the car, the Porsche that we saw go off into the gravel, by comparison is not really a problem. Snatch vehicle can get that out of the way, so the car of Charles Putnam in the gravel bed, that can be hoiked out of the way. But the McLaren on the track and with damage, and you saw that it took Andy Merrick a minute or so to get out of the car, because he was probably a bit winded and a bit bruised. He's okay, we've seen him out of the car now, but that needs moving off the track. But this concern, John's absolutely dead right to say it, the barrier damage, the race officials will want a long look at that before they are happy to let everybody go once again. An hour and 23 minutes remain, two safety cars back to back.
And well, this could be, I hope it is not, but it could be quite a long and protracted safety car deployment. It's a matter of whether the barrier, the damage to the barrier, there we see the McLaren being hoisted onto the back of the truck. That will be cleared very, very quickly indeed. It may be felt that the barrier damage is, let's say, sustainable, and this race will get underway. But when a GT car is going backwards, best part of 1,100 kilograms, probably doing 60 miles an hour at the point of impact, it does punch quite a big hole.
So the field all bunched up behind the safety car. While we've got, for the first time in the race really, chance to catch our breath, let's just run through the order. 44 Ferrari leads with Cesar Ramos, the Brazilian single-seater racer, at the wheel of it. From 69 McLaren, Nico Verdonk. Third, number 11 McLaren, Mike Parisi. 4th, 13 Audi, Frank Schnippler. 5th, 35 Nissan, Lucas Ordóñez. 6th, 16 Audi, Anthony Kumpen. 7th, number 4 BMW, Marcus Paltela. 8th, number 50 Ferrari, Louis Machiels. 9th, 88 McLaren, Jordan Grogor, who has continued Rob Barth's good work. And 10th, number 17, Martin Janssen, the Danish driver in the Ferrari. In the Gentleman Trophy, it is being led 21st overall by this Porsche, Miro Konopka, who has been a mainstay of GT racing for many years. The Slovakian driver shares with the Omani Ahmad Al-Hati. Is that the first Omani-Slovakian driver combination in the history of ever? Possibly so. And 21st overall, doing a cracking job leading the Gentleman Trophy. Just those two drivers in the Porsche run by ARC Bratislava. Ahmad Al-Hati, class winner in the Carrera Cup GB last year, racing in British GT as well as the Blancpain Endurance Series this year. So, what a busy first hour and a half it's been. We've had plenty of great racing. We've had one or two people being summoned to the race director to explain themselves. We've had people losing time in the pits. We've had people gaining time out on track. We've had a bit of damage, and now we've got this safety car period for the damaged McLaren of Mike Wainwright. He's the owner, the Geneva-based Brit, Andy Merrick, having been the man behind the wheel of the car when it went off. The safety car is going to be in this lap, but let's hear from Mike Wainwright. He's looking at a damage repair bill. He's also talking to Jack Nicholls.
So Mike, mainly of course, is Andy all right?
Andy's fine, he's walking back. I've not actually spoken to him, but from what I hear he's okay. I think he lost the rear going into Ascari, but I don't know.
Okay, cool, thank you very much.
Pleasure, thanks.
And I posed the question by text to the race director about the barrier. He says it's all fine, so we're good to go, and that's why the safety car is going to be in this time. So John, let battle commence.
Yes indeed, and there is a lead car, 2 cars between that and second place, and a further car between second place and third place. So, well, it will be battle commence, and it will be about traffic management, I think is the best way to describe it. But Cesar Ramos has got clear air ahead of him, and he will have to make use of that to maximum effect once the safety car is returned to the pit lane and racetrack goes green.
Now, of course, this brace of safety car periods has helped people's fuel a little bit, and we are also now looking at another 20 minutes before you get to the end of this hour and effectively the next round of pit stops. But for many of the teams, these safety car interventions have been good news.
Yes, and I mean, for the teams that have got, let's say, the gentleman drivers in them, and they've got a professional driver behind the wheel, you want to keep the professional driver in as long as you possibly can. But Cesar Ramos is having to defend from the back with the Nissan coming down alongside, and of course the Nissan not racing for the lead, but certainly racing to get ahead of the Ferrari.
Because that wants to unlap itself to get back onto the lead lap will be good news with an hour and 19 minutes to go. Nico Verdonk, they're running in second spot in that Gulf Racing McLaren, the surviving Gulf Racing McLaren now. This is the car from the Pro Cup, and he goes to the outside of the SMP Racing Ferrari, heading out of the Curva Grande up towards the second chicane. Ramos then, once again, has got to control the pace from the front. And the ART McLarens, there is the third place car working its way through traffic, Mike Parisi at the wheel. Fourth is the Frank Stippler Audi in the background there, and in fifth place, you just saw it go through the shot, Lucas Ordonez in the Nissan. So there are still battles to be resolved. These safety car periods helping Mark VDS a little bit, bringing numbers 4 and lower down 3 back into the mix. And the 25 BMW there you saw gaining ground up on the inside as well, which is the TDS BMW new to the championship this year. The reigning champion, by the way, Stephane Ortelli, we've not mentioned much, and a good reason. He's 23rd. Of course, that car losing time when Lawrence Vantor had the puncture, but 23rd with an hour and 18 minutes to go. Not great news for the Monegasque.
In the meantime, we're seeing Cesar Ramos pulling away bit by bit. Interesting battle going on. Frank Stippler is going to be very careful because in fifth place, the Nissan is seeking to close down on the back of the Audi. And with the grunt of the Nissan has got, we've seen it, I mean, it's so big it stands out amongst the entire field of GT cars. It's Frank Stippler having to be careful threading his way through this group of cars.
We're getting a report that Jake Rattenbury, the young British driver in 54 Ferrari, has got a tyre problem, and there, look, getting in the way of Frank Stippler was the 77 car that was started by Philip Eng, and that was the American driver at the wheel of it now, Rodion Ionesi, very nearly causing a bit of contact there.
But Stippler manages to get through, and fortunately he's able to defend down the inside, keeping that car secure.
So Stippler running in fourth, and you'll see that behind him on the road is the Haribo Porsche. Mike Sturzberg at the wheel of it, a lap down. Richard Westbrook will do the last stint in that car. But he's facing a rather steep mountain to climb to gain many places back.
I think it's a case of ka-ching.
There are worse places to be, being paid to drive a Porsche on a Sunday afternoon than Monza.
Well, if you're a professional racing driver, your job on a weekend is not to sit at home reading the Sunday Times Rich 1000 list. It's being in one of these cars.
I'm trying to earn your way into that list, yes. So as the race has got an hour and 17 minutes just about still to go. We've got Ferrari ahead of McLaren, ahead of Audi, ahead of Nissan, ahead of BMW in the top 6. Mike Sturzberg is on the road ahead of Lucas Ordonez. Ferrari in trouble now. Which Ferrari? That might be Rattenbury. We know he's got a tyre problem. Is that 54? I think it is, yes. So the M-Tech car
left front,
slowly,
right front.
Yeah, right front puncture, limping back to the pit lane. That's the tyre problem that's been reported, and it's been a long, slow lap even to get to the pit lane. And of course, he's got to go at a pace that doesn't lose too much time without going too quickly to incur damage.
Well, he's going to stay out of the way, and you've got a lot of cars coming down. He's just going to have to stay on the left-hand side of the track coming down in to the Parabolica, look for a gap in his mirrors, hopefully get that gap to get from left to right, get out of the way of the remaining field.
Eric Konopka there as well in the 66 Porsche, doing a very, very good job. Remember, I said he was in 21st place, comes over the line. He's actually lost out a bit on that lap because he's down to 23rd. That's because the numbers 2 and 1 WRT Audis have gone past. Rahul Frey and Stephane Ortelli have jumped ahead, but Konopka is still well clear in his class. The ARC Bratislava Porsche down to the turn 1 chicane. Class opposition from Jean-Luc Beaubilic's Ferrari, but he's a few seconds further back behind him.
There is the Nissan in 5th place. A lot of traffic ahead to try and get close to the gearbox, or the rear certainly of the Audi of Frank Stippler. But O'Donoghue has done a very good job following on from Alex Buncombe and the Ferrari. Still, when he can't get that, how's he going to get across from left to right? And he's not allowed to go across that white line. He's almost going to have to turn it through 90 degrees. And he's gone across the white line, and no doubt that will be another penalty for that particular car.
But he's in the pit lane, so thankfully he's got to cross the circuit without drama. And let's see what he's dropped around the circuit, if that tyre is foul against bodywork. Look at the Beach Gene ice cream Aston Martin. Andrew Howard, 16th. Andrew, a quick amateur racer. Came out of mini racing into GTs, goes strongly in British GT racing. Daniel McKenzie put that car into the lead. Andrew Howard, I would suggest, will do a shorter middle stint, and then on the Johnny Adam into the car, and everybody tries to trip over themselves coming out of the second Lesmo corner. Some are battling for position, some are being lapped, and all of this is about self-preservation.
Where do you go? Because as soon as you see a gap, you want to go for it. Somebody else is already there. We've got 20 or more cars, literally, as they come up into the Scary chicane. Some, as you say, are on the lead lap. Others are being lapped. Some have got gentleman drivers, some have got professional drivers. And it is absolutely the worst situation when this happens.
That is a fantastic advert for the Blancpain Endurance Series. A track full of cars, full of overtaking. Some, as we keep saying, are on different laps. Does it matter? What a spectacle. Look at that.
Three abreast, the McLaren being either squeezed out or having a problem. That was the McLaren that initially led the race here, and now it's being absolutely swamped as it came through Parabolica.
That's Rodin Ionessi doing his best to keep out of the way. 54 laps done by the race leader. An hour and 13 minutes remain. And that is Colombo yet again. He's had his dramas down at the Parabolica, and he's had more dramas at the Parabolica.
And drags on as he gets back onto the racetrack. The gravel, you can see it being just poured all over what would be the normal line you'd want to be taking down the main straight on the left-hand side into turn 1. This battle just rages on up into the second chicane here at Monza. He gets through cleanly this time, or they appear to do. Von Ryan, McLaren, and a spinner in turn 1.
It's one of the SMP Racing Ferraris pointing in the wrong direction. Which of the three is it? Home in on the car. I think that's the pole sitter. It is. It's 70, which means that the car of Alexander Scriabin has had a spin at the first chicane. Where's he going? Escape road. That's kind of the plan. So that throws that down the order. Stefano Colombo, by the way, after his multitudinous dramas, has now fallen down into 35th place, and he's a lap behind. And that's Santilok Audi, slowly heading back to the pit lane. They've not had a great weekend. There's an ART McLaren also looking a bit sluggish. That's 12, which is the second string car, letting the quicker drivers go by. Last look, it was Gilles Vanelay behind the wheel of that. So up front, Cesar Ramos ahead of Nico Verdonk by 5 seconds. And number 17, Ferrari, is currently in 10th place. Martin Janssen at the wheel of it there is 2:30, which is the second of the JRM Nissans. Lots of Nissan representation on this grid, run by different teams. And that car now has got Charles Bateman at the wheel of it, started by Humaid Al-Massoud. Matt Bell, Rob's brother, will do the last stint. Charles Bateman, race winner in British GT in recent times, but that was in Audis and McLarens and Ferraris, now with a new mount for this year. the field wriggles its way out of the first chicane. 43, SRO Motorsport BMW, the Cerruti Liberato Comandini car, being reported to have an engine problem, and that therefore drops it further down the order. Stephane Ortelli up into 21st place, but still not finding the speed in that car, whereas Frank Stippler is going strongly in the third of the numerical Belgian Audi Club team cars, but is in 4th place overall, having a much better day than number 1 or number 2 is having.
Yeah, for Frank Stippler is only just over 2 seconds ahead of the former leading Nissan. So the traffic will be the big issue for these cars, these lead cars. They're so easily getting trapped behind. You come up against a group of 5 or 6 or 7 cars all battling amongst themselves, and they're not really aware that they are about to be lapped by the lead cars, and that's where the skill of the professional driver is absolutely at its most.
Had we not had those safety car periods, we'd be looking at another 5 laps to the next round of pit stops. This is Lapri, and Stippler going for the inside of his teammate to get past Rahel Frey at the Parabolica. Frey 20th and Stippler running in 4th.
But Stippler was really compromised on the entry. The sister car did not give him any favours whatsoever, and there the Nissan, you see the tail of it, that's played to the strength of Nissan. It's now only 1.5 seconds behind the 4th place Stippler Audi.
But you see, Stippler cannot afford to hesitate. He's got to get through that traffic, whether it's your teammate or not, because he's just being chased so hard, and he has got to chase as well. He's losing time relative to Mike Parisi further up the road.
Indeed, but there how many of these Ferraris?
Every time you look up, there's a spinning Ferrari.
Yeah.
Yet again, that's the second spin for that car in the race. And there is 54 Jake Rattenbury with the right number of inflated tyres on it. And ahead of him is Ganassi going fairly slowly, I'm afraid, in the McLaren. So, let's just go back to pit stops. I reckon we've got another 6 or maybe 7 laps now before the next round of pit stops. And off has gone Porsche, spectacularly off this time. Is that the Parabolica? He's been catching out a huge number of them.
Looks pretty much like the usual spot. There's the exit. Let's have a look and see. Oh, look, he's passing them, but completely down the inside, and never a chance of ever turning into the corner. Charles Putman, and certainly, I mean, with a name like Putman in the sand trap, he ain't going to get a hole-in-one, is he, for that one? Stuart Radnowski will not be very impressed when he sees that on the replay.
Indeed, and that is Putnam's second drama. Remember before Andy Merrick went off, we'd seen him in the gravel at the Lesmos. He's got out of there and hurled it off at the Parabolica. So Charles Putnam, who's a pretty experienced racer back home in the States, is not having a happy Blancpain debut.
It was never ever going to happen. The line he took into the corner, he was already 2 wheels on the grass on the inside of the entry into the Parabolica. He had no option but just to go straight.
57 laps are done, lead gap is growing. Adam Carroll is going to earn his money here, John, I think, to make up an extending gap, 7 seconds at the moment. Now, who does 44 go to next? It will go to Daniele Zampieri, and he versus Adam Carroll. Interesting fight.
Well, in my view, I don't know much about Zampieri, but I know an awful lot about Adam Carroll. And look at the dust, another car off of the Parabolica. Where is the car? Where's the racetrack? Oh, now who was that? Oh, no, it was the truck of the...
That's the variante Ascari.
That's the Ascari. Yeah. But who went off in the Parabolica? There we see Putman, the car being pulled finally away from the barriers. That was probably what was causing the dust. It was just simply the amount of effort dragging the Porsche through the gravel. But it goes back to Adam Carroll. You'd have to think that if anybody's going to drag the performance in the final segment in that car, Adam Carroll will do it.
That's Michele Cerruti's BMW, I think, that's gone off at the Variante Ascari. That was the reason for the dust. There's a BMW there that needs hoiking out the way. So we'd seen the car have a spin earlier on in the race, if you remember, and now Michele Cerruti is off the road. She's a winner here in the past in Superstars, the Italian-based touring car series. That was not a Superstar-type drive, though, to go off into the gravel at the chicane. Right, we're almost into the final third of the race here, and it's still up for grabs, isn't it?
Bodywork has finally detached, and is this the second time that 42 Audi has lost it on, certainly on the opening lap, and now completely gone? Have they run out of spare parts, or do they think it's the smart thing to do to let the car continue in that condition? I don't.
Well, it's David Halliday, or David Smet, to give him his real name, the son of Johnny Halliday, who's behind the wheel. He's an experienced driver, but if the scrutineers and the race officials feel that car should be in, you can expect a black and orange and then a full black flag. So out of the race is the SRO Motorsports BMW. Disappointing, as the race now has 1 hour and 6 minutes still to run. And Cesar Ramos has an 8-second advantage over Nico Verdonk. So Daniel Zampieri versus Adam Carroll. Fascinating battle for the final part of the race. And the number 11 ART McLaren will have Andy Soucek in. Puncture for the BMW.
Yeah, he's in the pit lane, fortunately, just further down the field. Mike Parisi, only 2.7 seconds behind Nico Verdonk. Still very much a possibility that that number 11 McLaren could find itself slightly further up the winner's podium.
Okay, that's Jelmer Berman in with what we think is a punctured tyre, and they're going to put Maxime Martin into the car a little bit early. About 65 minutes for Maxime Martin to work his magic. Okay, that car's going to come up the order, not my word. Maxime Martin is an absolute hero in the GT car.
He's a star. Every time I've seen him in a GT car, he drags a performance, and Maxime Martin will have, what, 65 minutes or so of the race to go, and hopefully that will see.
Up it goes on the jacks. They've done the fuel, they've done the driver change. 2-part pit stops within the regulations. So driver change and fuel is part 1, and then tyres and anything else you need to do effectively, John, is part 2.
But look at this, the BDS team go to work, absolutely poetry in motion. The gunman does his job, gets the wheel off, the other engineer gets it on, and a good stop from BDS and Maxime Martin. The air to the pit lane exit, always an advantage in a race where you've got a pit lane speed limit, and now once he crosses the line, he'll be hard on it, and Maxime Martin will go to business.
Remember how we were mentioning the relative pace now of Rodin Ionessi in the orange McLaren? Well, the team manager of that car is being summoned to the race director. Whether this is to say, can you encourage your man to give the quicker cars a bit more space? Not sure, but it's interesting that that's now happening. Jones Mercedes getting pushed out.
Very much so. Sort of intimidated on the entry in the middle part of the corner, on the exit now of Parabolica, but up to speed. But there was a moment just where, well, you just got to be very careful. Don't put yourself into jeopardy, and the Jones brothers, or whichever one of it was, didn't do so.
Fascinating fact 37 of the race is that after his 2 spins in the Vita41 BMW, Stefano Colombo has now gone quicker than anybody in the middle sector of the race.
Probably got talent somewhere.
Yes.
In the middle sector of the circuit, certainly.
That's where it's to be found. So on that 1/3 of the lap, he's absolutely fine, but he's had those 2 spins and has cost the car a whole heap of places.
At BMW. I think the car's getting damaged more by being pulled through the gravel trap, certainly the bodywork and the front splitter. This is up, of course, at the Ascari chicane. As it gets pulled to safety. A bit of a wobble from the McLaren coming through the Ascari chicane as we look to see positions of the Audi, and then looking for the Nissan further back. There it is. So Frank Stippler's managed to consolidate the gap between 4th and 5th place. It's up down to 4.7 seconds, so good work by Frank Stippler.
And Maxime Martin, as you can see there, is back into the race in the number 3 BMW, but it's a lap down. So Maxime Martin is not going to be a winner, but he's going to gain some places, that's for sure. He hustles his way out of the Parabolica. Comes up over the line. Now, of course, he's in that car because of Jelmer Berman's early stop. Jelmer is in the pits with Jack.
Jelmer, a little bit earlier than planned, that pit stop.
Yeah, well, we had from pretty early onwards we had a problem with the right rear tire, which was losing pressure, and we just hoped we could just make it till the pit stop window. But then I started to feel a lot of vibration, so I thought, okay, now it's going, so I left it off, and then it went on the back straight. Luckily there, because if it goes here, then you have to do the whole lap, so that was our luck. But on the other hand, yeah, we lost a lot of time, and it's all getting a bit more difficult now, so we have to see.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, that answers that one, doesn't it? So it gives Maxime Martin a little bit more time in the car than perhaps he was anticipating, but the car has lost a lap, and that's going to be very difficult to make up. Having said that, though,
they made the final stop.
They have, and so the cars ahead need to make a pit stop. They will lose out accordingly.
So Maxime Martin into the car, what, maybe 5 minutes or so earlier than anticipated, but he's in the car, and the majority of the field will have to make their pit stop, and that is the point when Maxime Martin has the opportunity to get the maximum out of the BMW Z4M to try and gain something back for the team.
There is a car ahead that's made 2 pit stops. It's the Ortelli Vantour Audi, but one of those was an unscheduled stop, remember, for a puncture. They couldn't do a driver change that early, so that's got to stop again and put René Rast into the car. So again, that's going to elevate Maxime Martin. So let's see how the race pendulum may swing back in favour of the Belgian team. The Marc VDS team is one that is a bit marginal on fuel. Now, of course, that middle stint was good for them because of the safety car, but I don't think, whether their calculations agree, we'll see, that they can do an hour and 5 minutes on a tank of fuel.
Well, if Maxime Martin does what he usually does and drive the wheels off the car, it may be marginal, so he may well find himself in the closing 15 minutes of the race having to baby the car to get it to the finish. And of course, very frustrating when you've done some good work in the car to drag it up to a position to then have to act as a babysitter to the car for the final laps.
That's number 70, the Scriabin, now Alessandro Pierguidi Ferrari. Pierguidi set the pole time, and he has had a drama on the second chicane early in his stint. Skips over the curb, ignores the yellow line that he's told to stay behind. There's Nico Verdonk running in second place. Yeah, the BMWs use 3.3 litres of fuel a lap, and a tank capacity is 115 litres.
Work it out.
I don't think that's enough to get them to the end, but we will see. There could yet be another safety car, which would help.
Well, any safety car, certainly anybody who's on a very fine fuel limit, they're going to be very grateful for indeed. And car 11 right on the tail of Nico, being forced wide. I mean, poor use of the mirrors, not being accustomed to having that level of pressure, and Mike Parisi having to flash the headlights at the Ferrari to say, get out of the way.
And it won't. It's still stuck in the way, isn't it? That car does not help in the situation at all. 72 Ferrari in the way. So Nico Verdonk accelerates clear. Now Mike Parisi comes up on the inside out of the parabolica. Now he sorts out the back marker.
But the Ferrari has got speed. Parisi has got track position, but the Ferrari's not keen to get that position to overtake. There's a black and orange flag we think might be being shown. So car gets through this battle for second place in the race, and the Ferrari still looks like it wants to pass yet again as they dived to the right.
The meatball flag you saw in the background, that black and orange mechanical warning flag, was for 42. Remember that we were speculating it may get that flag, John, because of that front bodywork missing. The officials are now doing just that.
Let's see what happened. This is where Mike Parisi coming out, chasing Nico Verdonk. He went to the wrong side because the Ferrari didn't see. It was blindsided, and Parisi had to get out of it and then pull across to the left-hand side of the track. At the same time, the Ferrari then decides to go the same direction, and Mike Parisi compromised the entire way.
But that said, he's fought back very effectively, hasn't he? He's closed down that gap.
Spinning, but Lesmo won.
77, I think, isn't it? Once again, which means that Rodin Guanasev has gone off.
Parisi very, very wide on the exit of Lesmo to bounce the back of the car across the curbing. Managed to keep it in control. Easy to lose the car if you ride the curbs there.
So for second place, I should say. Second place, Nico Verdonk versus Mike Parisi. And of course, these are drivers getting towards the end of their stints now. So they're going to have fresh tyres on the car soon, fresh drivers behind the wheel. Andy Soucek, former Formula 2 champion, Formula 3 champion, he will take over the white McLaren. There is the leader, who is in this time. So, earlier than expected, Cesar Ramos brings in the car at the end of lap 63. Calculations were that could have gone to 66. So down the pit lane comes Cesar Ramos, and that 44 Ferrari will now go to Daniel Zampieri for the last stint of the race. That's going to put Nico Verdonk into the lead. Over the line comes the Gulf McLaren. There in the background was the Ferrari peeling into its pit box. And Verdonk wants to clear that Audi coming into the chicane.
Worst situation. Gives absolutely everything to Mike Parisi. He should be able to get off. Turn 2 out of the first chicane. Slightly better than Nico Verdonk. The Audi not really cooperating. Should have been a little bit more aware of the battle going on. But that's what happens in endurance racing. Now, can Mike Parisi think about making a move down into the second chicane? He's going to have to go the long way round because Nico Verdonk isn't giving him any space.
Both of them break as late as they dare. What they don't want to do at the very end of their stint is make a mistake, but Mike Parisi would like to bring in that car as the leader. So you've got Zampieri taking over 44. Let's see where these two McLarens feed back in after the pit stops relative to this car. It's a Castle Racing Ferrari. Pit stops have in the past been the Achilles heel for this team. New tyres go on. Pirelli's for everybody this year. Pirelli supplies every team under the regulations in the championship. Now, how long before Verdonk pits? How long before Parisi pits? There, 44 Ferrari blasts back into the race.
Yeah, just got ahead of the traffic coming down the pit lane as well as Mike Parisi still running behind Nico Verdonk. Which of these two cars is going to make the pit stop first? Will be Mike Parisi in and hand over to Andy Soucek, strong driver Andy Soucek, or will it be, in the case of Adam Carroll, taking over from Nino Verdonk?
And what happened at the first round of pit stops? They came in on the same lap, so you might expect them to come in down the pit lane nose to tail just as they are on the track, fighting now for the race lead nose to tail. Verdonk out of the Parabolica, behind him is Mike Parisi. Another lap? Yes, for the Gulf Racing car, yes for ART Grand Prix, and the reason for that is that team has got 12 to service and get out of the way.
Good teamwork indeed from ART Grand Prix. Battle going on again, down into the first chicane. Nino Verdonk having to be very, very, let's say, cautious, not reacting to the pressure from Mike Parisi. Mike Parisi also aware that if he tries too hard, he himself might catch himself out, and in turn one it's easy to make that error on the brakes.
So Nico Verdonk then, who was a race winner in Blancpain 2 years ago when he drove a Ferrari for Vita 4-1, has come via Formula 3 into International Formula 3000, then Formula Le Mans. He had a spell in for a while. Nico, or Nicolas, to give him his full name, Nico Verdonk, behind the wheel of what is now the race-leading car. Now they pitted on lap 31. They should have gone to 62. We're, of course, well past that now because the safety car has stretched the fuel load. And, of course, now, look, we're well into this last hour. So the further into this hour you can pit, the better you are to ignore a splash and dash right at the very end.
So we could speculate as much as you like as to which of these two McLarens will make it into the pit lane, or will they make it together, and then there'll be simply a battle of the crews as they come up behind the BMW into the Ascari chicane. Nico Verdonk, not something he really wanted. The BMW straight line speed, though, is not as strong as we're seeing from other cars, notably the McLaren.
Okay, Soucek ready to go, and I think if you look the other way down the pit lane, you'll find that Adam Carroll is ready to go as well. And just to go back a little bit, news from Jack in the pits tells us that it was a sticking rear wheel for the Nissan at the first round of pit stops for Alex Buncombe, and that's why they lost all the time. They've subsequently done the second stop. In comes Verdonk, and as on the first round of pit stops, in will come the ART Grand Prix McLaren as well. They come in that order, Gulf ahead of ART, but what order will they rejoin in?
The easiest pass on a racetrack is actually in the pit lane, because that is also part of the racetrack. So ART go to it, Gulf Racing go to it. Who's going to come out? The winner.
And not only that, we need to keep an eye to where the 44 Ferrari is. Frank Stippler is in as well. So number 13, Frank Stippler, comes down the pit lane. There's Andy Soucek, who rushes around the other side of the car. There's Stippler coming down the pit lane in number 13. He will give that car now to Edward Sandstrom for the last stint. Okay, that's the ART pit stop. Adam Carroll has been bouncing up and down on his toes, no doubt, ready to get into the Gulf Racing car. How is their pit stop going? And where is the 44 Ferrari?
There it is, coming up to the Ascari chicane. So it's a third of a lap remaining. So will that Ferrari get through the chicane, get down the straight into Parabolica and exit before this car moves?
Don't forget, it was leading by about 8 seconds before it stopped. That's what it has in hand. So now all the fuel has gone in, 115 litres. Now they've got to change tyres. This car should keep the lead.
Comfortably keep the lead, because the McLaren would have to then get off the jacks, trundle down at 60 kilometers per hour down the pit lane, and the Ferrari is coming now onto the straight. There it is, entering the pit straight, and up to 279 kilometers per hour, and they're still putting the front wheels onto the McLaren, onto the ART Grand Prix team car.
So Ferrari leads. That's going to cheer the Tifosi, isn't it? Away goes the ART McLaren. I'm looking down into the pit lane to see where that car is. Well, in fact, it's going to get mugged in the pits, because ahead of it is the Stippler Audi that's now been taken over by Sandstrom. So there, look, Sandstrom comes out ahead of Andy Soucek and then Adam Carroll. So the Audi has gained 2 places in the pits.
So effectively the battle for second, third and fourth cars, the McLaren there on the left of your screen, Adam Carroll behind the wheel. A lot of work to do for the Ulsterman now to run down the system, well, not the system, but the McLaren driven by Andy Soucek. But it is the Audi that was the big winner, the car that was being driven by Frank Stippler, now in second place.
Okay, so now you've got the same cars, different drivers, different order. And what are we going to have after this? Well, there is Edward Sandstrom, who has got Andy Soucek right up behind him as they work their way through the second chicane. The race was being led by Nico Verdonk when he broke the timing beam back into the lead of the race. In terms of those that have done their second stop, will go 44. Daniel Zampieri for the Kessel Racing team. 51 more minutes of this very long sprint race. Never mind the word endurance. Sprint is what it is. It's full on, isn't it, right the way through?
This has been, I mean, a sprint where I've not been involved before with Blancpain, but this is certainly as exciting as any of the sprint races I've been involved with over the previous 3 years. And headlights flashing, Andy Soucek trying to do everything to distract the Audi going into the chicane. So the pace of these two cars, whatever it was on the racetrack, Audi were the winners overall in that little battle for second, third and fourth. But Soucek under the rear wing of the Audi now as they make their way down. Edward Sundstrom, the Swedish driver, only one Swede, I believe, in the race this year, goes to the outside. Can he cut across the front of the Audi?
Soucek right round the outside, that's brave. Is he going to get hung out to dry? He's going to go backwards here. Edward Sundstrom hangs onto the place. He comes out with his nose in front, but Soucek on the outside is absolutely dead level as they come over the timing line. On the inside for the chicane is the Audi. Now you're going to see which car has got the better straight line speed and the better aero. Both drivers with their feet nailed to the floor here to try and keep flat out all the way down to the chicane. Who brakes latest? It's the Audi. Sandstrom hangs onto the place. Fantastic.
You know, we saw straight line speeds from all the practice and qualifying sessions. The McLaren had an advantage of about, on average, 10 or more kilometres per hour on the straight. There they were, totally even Stevens. So where's the speed from the Audi come from, or where's the speed lost from the McLaren? Because Andy Soucek, quicker out of the corner, could do nothing. Now tries to dive down the inside into the second chicane, wisely gets out of it and lets the Audi take the opportunity.
This is for second place. When they came over the timing line, Soucek was ahead, by the way. You may not have spotted it because it was only by 37 thousandths of a second, but he was ahead. History will relate. That's Leon Price, who I'm afraid has had a drama in the car that Rob Bath started so rapidly. So Leon Price parked by the side of the road, disappointing. The Price Grogar car.
Yeah, coming out of the exit of the first of the Lesmo corners, runs right across on the outside of the racetrack, and luckily he gets a right tank slapper, and that is a great shame. Leon Price just lets the car, he gets two of the Pirelli signs, and he reverses almost onto the track. The grass has been wet, but it's and here's this battle that we saw just a moment ago. And Edward Sundstrom holds on to second place.
It's a big gap, though, between the leader and this second place Audi, because the leader has already gone over the timing line. They've not yet come out of the parabolica. They could ill afford to continue this fight. Ideally, they want to try and work together and catch this car. That's coming out of the first chicane. The lead gap, effectively, therefore, is 20 seconds, nearer to 21. And it's only half a second between second and third. Now, in terms of lap time, Zampieri lapping in the 150s, these two holding each other up, high 150s or 151s.
The only thing that they can be comfortable with is that Adam Carroll in the Gulf Racing McLaren in fourth place is actually 8.5 seconds behind. So Adam Carroll's got a lot of work to do to catch up to the tail of Andy Soucek, let alone have any thought about putting his car onto a podium position.
But he is lapping fractionally faster. So, again, where did all the time go? We didn't look at that Gulf Racing pit stop, but it was a bad one, clearly, because they lost a lot of time in the pits. So Daniel Zampieri continues to lead the way for Kessel Racing. Second and third, this battle, Edward Sundstrom versus Andy Soucek. You've got the Audi ahead of the McLaren, and then fourth, no longer in shot, is Adam Carroll. Fifth, how about this, the Mark VDS BMW of Nick Katzberg, racing for the team full-time this year, having had a one-up outing at the end of last season. And in sixth place is the number 32 Nissan, which again is one of the academy cars, but that's currently pitted. That should promote, therefore, Andrea Vettrolini up into the top six, having taken over from Louis Machiels, who took over from Nick Homerson.
Andy Soucek bouncing the McLaren over the curbs in the Ascari chicane. Well, that very phlegmatic Edvard Sundström just does the job in such an understated way in the Audi. It's very typical of a Swede. The exception, of course, of the late and great Ronnie Peterson, who tragically lost his life at Monza in 1978. And there, just to go back to the Leon Price, McLaren of
Von Ryan Racing Team. Yeah. Trying to get that, the marshals trying to get the car out of the way.
And I think they've actually just got it running again.
Yeah. Second place fight continues. The gap 21.6 seconds. It's going up because Zampieri now is being able to pull away. These two holding each other up by squabbling for second place. It makes you wonder what Souček could do if he could get past the Audi. Could he pull away? Could he catch the Ferrari?
Always the unanswerable in motorsport. But drivers will tell you, if I could have gotten ahead of Edvard Sundström, I know I could have run down that 21-second disadvantage. Well, you know. Part of the Tim Schenken motor racing drivers' book of excuses. Tim wrote it in the early 70s, and it's still a bestseller.
And now he hears the excuses from it in his job as V8 Supercar race director, doesn't he? Still a leading race official. Now, this second-placed fight continues unrelenting, doesn't it? Edvard Sundström trying to keep at bay Andy Souček. Behind them, Adam Carroll is lapping quicker, only by 0.3 a lap. He's got a lot of time to make up, but he's chipping away. And then Nick Katzberg, in turn, is dropping away behind them. He's no longer lapping on that pace, but he's still doing a reasonable job of hanging on to 5th place ahead of Andrea Bertolini, who is in 6th. And it looks as though Andrea is going to guide last year's champions to another class win. Well, Frank Stippler did a really good job in his stint in the number 13 Audi. There he is with Jack Nicholls.
Frank, great work by the team to get you out in 2nd place, and now Edvard's in a bit of a fight, isn't he?
Yes, we are fighting for the podium, I think, if we are lucky. We have some little problems. I hope that we can survive. Still a long distance to go, but we keep the fingers crossed that everything works out fine.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you.
A long distance to go means, you can see on the clock, 44.5 minutes. A lot can still happen, John.
I'm sorry, just listening to Frank Stippler, super fit racing driver, he had to work really, really hard. You don't normally see that level of, in his face. That was hard, a hard stint for Frank Stippler, but it's paid dividends because great work by Frank, great work by the team, changing the driver and the tires, refueling to get now Edvard Sundström out into 2nd place. Let's look at a replay of what's happening, coming down into the Parabolica.
Souček behind, Sundström ahead. Souček has a look and a wobble.
And he overran the corner. He made a slight mistake, under braking, trying to make a move, and consequently dropped back, only maybe by a few tenths of a second, but now very much, well, just overtaking one of the back markers, just trying to get himself back into the position he's enjoyed for the last number of laps.
Back marker, Haxis Racing. Never thought we'd be talking about that car being lapped. So much for our thought that, and it was a good thought, about it being all to a plan and saving fuel. The car is 16th, Alexander Sims at the wheel of it, and he's now got a lap down.
Bit of a wake-up call for these young lads, isn't it? You know, hot rod out of Formula 3 in the UK, and suddenly finding himself being overtaken by drivers who are probably quite a lot older, but very, very good drivers they are in this type of racing.
But we've not seen the best of Haxis. If that car has been disabled because of its engine dramas, well, it'll go quicker in the 2nd round. Silverstone is the next stop for the championship. Back markers, and then this 2nd place battle. Here they come.
Indicating that he's staying on the left of track. You can see the headlights flashing. Sundström is actually flashing the lights, but the driver has made the preparation, stays to the left.
Talking about back markers, this is what the leader, Daniel Zampieri, has got to work his way past, and very nearly comes to grief. Look at that.
Well, I assumed that the car had already given ground to Zampieri, but it wasn't the case at all. And luckily, Zampieri was unpersuaded by the manoeuvre of the sister Ferrari that was going to be the case.
But it's things like that that can spell disaster for you when it's completely out of your control. So Daniel Zampieri lives to fight another day. That was very close indeed. Bit touch and go at the first chicane. Thankfully, more going than touching, but he had to back out of that, so that first sector will be a slower one.
Another little opportunity developing as we see the 2nd car, Andy Souček, and the Audi as they come down. They've gotten ahead of that slower back marker, so that's not a problem for these 2nd and 3rd place. The battle for the 2nd place. Adam Carroll, in the meantime, slowly chipping away. He's about 0.3 of a second a lap quicker than the battle for second place right now. Gap down to 7.6 seconds. Zampieri still behind the Ferrari, which has failed to yield, even though it's currently a lap down and probably going to go down a further lap. Comes down this final, the second fastest part of the Monza racetrack, down into the Parabolica. Isn't close enough to take the risk to dive down the inside now. Hopes to get a better run off the Parabolica as we go back to the second place battle.
And they are still slugging it out for second place. This should be a slower lap for Zampieri because of that problem he had at the first chicane, and it's a 1:54. The gap's going to come down as a result of it. He was lapping earlier on in the 50s, but a 1:54 means he's lost a couple of seconds from that most recent pace. Over the timing line in a moment will come second Sundström, third Souček, and that gap is just extending ever so slightly as they come over the line, because it's now half a second, second to third, and yeah, the gap has come down by round about 2 seconds between first and second. But with a clear road ahead of him, Zampieri can extend that again. Souček to the inside.
Yes, further back you can see the fifth car in the back of your picture is Adam Carroll. He's now beginning to get a sense of where the second, third place battle is, when you can see it as opposed to just being given the information by radio or by the visual pit board on the pit wall. Inspires you to make that little bit more effort to try and run that battle down to get to the final podium position, currently held by Andy Souček. Souček looks to down the inside into the second chicane, again wisely chooses not to make the commitment.
But he can't afford to sit there forever, can he? He's got to force the issue sooner or later and then see what he can do about the race leader. And you've seen the perils of the back markers. Thankfully no contact to affect Zampieri. Down to the second Lesmo corner comes this second place battle, and Sandstrom goes wide over the curb through the gravel. That's going to delay him. Souček up the inside and through he goes.
I mean, that was a gift horse. He looked straight into its mouth and took it. I mean, you wanted that all the time. Edvard Sundström got it wrong, probably in the middle of the corner. That's why he got so far out on the exit, and that was exactly what Andy Souček was looking for. And he is now taking second place, and now ahead of the Audi, will be able to pull ahead. 19 seconds is the gap now between second place. Let's look again. Out of Lesmo 1, everything is status quo. On the brakes into the second part of the Lesmo corner. Is there a little hint of an oversteer, or it's just simply runs wide on the exit? Just lack of concentration, just trying to free the car up, maybe too early on the exit. The penalty is severe. It's the loss of second place.
We're on lap 73. The race-leading Ferrari is that of Daniel Zampieri, and now there, second, is Andy Souček in the McLaren. Let's see what he can do to bring down a gap of 20 seconds. That is the margin now. So first to second, 20 seconds, 38.5, give or take, minutes of the race remaining. In third place is number 13, the Audi of Edvard Sandström. Fourth now is the 69 BMW, and there, round the outside of Nick Katzberg, to unlap itself, goes the number 2 Audi. Matt Halliday at the wheel. That was very brave indeed.
Matt Halliday is as brave as Dick Tracy. Great GT driver, more familiar with Porsches probably than others. And Matt Halliday had an off here in Saturday practice, but seemingly not affected, neither is the car. And just doing what Matt Halliday loves to do.
So Adam Carroll fourth in the Gulf Racing McLaren, and we've had this change for fifth place because the number 50 Ferrari, Andrea Bertolini, has got himself up past there, Nick Katzberg. Andrea Bertolini, who runs in the Pro-Am class, he's very much the pro. The Ams, although they're quick Ams, Nick Homerson and Louis Macchiels his co-drivers. So Bertolini in the Ferrari up to fifth.
One of the great jobs in the world of motor racing is Andrea Bertolini. He's a Ferrari employee and gets given all the lovely little jobs that you have to be done, not necessarily at the highest echelon in Formula One, but even then he has the odd occasional run out, I hear, at Fiorano.
He was their youngest ever test driver, wasn't he, Andrea Bertolini? He was instrumental in the development and the early success of the Maserati MC12, and this is how the move happened, because Nick Katzberg was behind a back marker. He thought, I'll go this way, and Bertolini thought, well, I know exactly what I'm going to do. Thanks for opening the door.
I mean, so easy. That's what experience is all about. That's what having a racing brain. Now, Nicky Katzberg, I know, is a super GT race driver, but he just got sort of lulled into thinking, well, I'll be cautious, I'll not take the risk. And of course, Bertolini, did he need a second invitation? Did he need a second invitation?
And while all that's going on, behind them in 7th place now is Maxime Martin. So he's gained lots of places back because he stopped, or the car had to stop early for its second mandatory pit stop. And there, Katzberg gets forced out wide because up the escape road very nearly goes the Dutchman. Nick Katzberg sorts himself out. More time lost. Won't be long before Maxime Martin is up with him. 6.5 seconds was the gap between them.
Gap between 3rd and 4th place, 5.1 seconds. And Edvard Sundström will be ruining that little error. We saw a couple of laps ago now in the second Lesmo where he allowed Andy Soucek through, and losing that momentum due to a minor error, get the tyres choked up with the dust on the outside of the corner. That also frustrates you. It takes a lap maybe, or the best part of a lap, to get your tyres fully clean and back to race condition.
Now the gap between the top two is down only by 10, but Andy Soucek is doing his best now to close on the race leader. His last lap was fractionally quicker. Now Soucek running second, having taken over from Mike Parisi. Let's hear from the Frenchman in the pits.
So Mike, it's going pretty well so far for ART. Do you think Soucek's got the pace to close in the leader?
I think it's quite difficult because Ferrari is very far. So we are going to try to keep the pressure, but to try to keep our second position. All the team did a very good job during all the weekend. My first teammate, Antoine Leclerc, did a very good start. Me, I think I did my job, and Andy is doing his job too. So we are very confident, and we hope to trust a new podium with Team ART.
Excellent, thank you.
So Andy Soucek will bring the car home, and the last lap was not as quick as that of the leader, so the gap, having come down a little, has stretched out once again. It's looking good for Ferrari, this.
Yep, they've got a good car here. I mean, they certainly were consistently, amongst all the Ferraris that are running here this weekend at Monza, the fastest cars in a straight line. It's a car, of course, that races here regularly in the Italian GT Championships. They know this place inside out and upside down. But the competition this year from manufacturers, let alone teams like McLaren and others, is just getting higher by the year. But the 458, which competes in the marketplace with the MP412C, they've got the deal done here today at Monza with 34 minutes remaining.
If a Kessel Racing Ferrari hangs on, this would only be the second outright win for a Ferrari 458 in the short history of the championship. One came in the first season at Navarra, run by Vita 4-1. No Ferrari wins came last year outright. They've had class successes, yes, but for all the Ferraris that are on the grid, they've not done that well in terms of outright wins. Well, Kessel Racing, for the moment, leads the way. Over the line goes Daniel Zampieri. 33 minutes of the race remains. Now, where's the sting in the tail for this race going to come from? What's going to happen next?
It'll be on the amount of fuel, or in some cases, solely vapor, remaining in the fuel tank, and the information will be transferred to the driver, and, well, they'll have to push, with the hope maybe that there might be yet another safety car intervention when they can then all breathe with relief.
So you've got the VDS cars running together, and are we going to see the places change? Any team orders? Let's get Jack to ask Bas Leitner in the pit lane now.
So Bas, your two cars running very close to one another. Do you control the car orders from the pit wall at all?
No, this is not Red Bull racing in Formula 1. We don't have any team orders, but at the moment car 4 has a slight issue with brakes, so we're easing off at the moment. But yeah, it's good to have the both cars in the top 5 in the Pro Cup, so we're happy with that.
The other question in this, John, is whether number 3 can go to the end. Remember, it's got to do 65 minutes, given when they put Maxime Martin into that car. And just also, to be a bit Amaraki for a moment, it's not only about getting the car to the finish, you've got to have 2 kilos of fuel left in for sampling at the end of the race. You can't run it dry.
No. Running it dry is, well, what a frustration. You've got the fuel, but you can't, who dreams up these rules and regulations? Well, that's the rule, that's the regulation. Same for everybody. You've got to monitor your fuel absolutely down to those last kilograms of fuel. And fuel, of course, these days measured by density, not by volume. And hopefully that fuel in the back of the BMW might be freezing cold. Somehow I don't imagine it is.
So Maxime Martin is up into 6th place, and importantly for the championship and points, that's 5th in class, so you move him up one more place in terms of scoring points. The next target for him is Andrea Bertolini, who is 9 seconds up the road, and Maxime for the moment not lapping as quickly.
There is another battle about to be joined, and that's for 3rd place. Adam Carroll now 2.5 seconds behind Edward Sundstrom in 3rd place. Remember, Sundstrom had held 2nd place. Brilliant pit stop. Great job by the Audi team. Lost it on the Lesmo. Suchek got ahead. Carroll now hunting down to try and demote the Audi from that final podium position.
Yeah, Sundstrom is struggling to match the lap times, isn't he, of Andy Suchek, so he's dropping away from the McLaren, and he is also now being caught, as John rightly says, by Adam Carroll. And the news from the Mark VDS team is that it's going to be marginal. That's all-encompassing word about the fuel for the number 3 car. Over the line is the 8th place battle. Henri Assid in the BMW, and he's under pressure from Marcus Winkelhock. Welcome to Blancpain, Marcus, the reigning GT1 world champion. His fellow champion from last year, Marc Massengo, has gone the World Touring Car route. Marcus comes to Blancpain, and a man who led his one and only Grand Prix, driving for Spiker, the only man to lead for Spiker as well, is right there on the back of Henri Assid, 8th and 9th, these two.
Marcus Winkelhock from, again, great family in motorsports, and to find a way just to, well, he didn't have to do too much defence coming into the second chicane, but on the exit doesn't look quite as able to get the power down again, or just being very cautious, because the Audi suddenly leapt all over the back, almost under the rear wing of Marcus Winkelhock in the BMW.
And again, you can see the way that the BMW is good at certain parts of the circuit, and on other sections the advantage goes the way of the Audi. Behind them is the Haribo Porsche. Richard Westbrook, he's 21st overall. He's not fighting these two for position, but if you want to watch somebody make a Porsche go quicker than it should, Richard is your man. Look at this on the outside line, challenging, coming up to the Variante Ascari, and Richard is always going to be a star in a Porsche. Here is more evidence of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's great when you see a driver battling like this, but of course, for the frustration for those cars that are involved in their own personal battle, it is they don't want Richard Westbrook anywhere around, and sometimes let him go, let him get out of your way, rather than having harrying from behind, trying to look down the inside, maybe thinking about going around the outside. The Porsche's got good straight line speed. Just breathe the throttle slightly before you get to the braking zone and let him go. As long as you don't lose too much contact with the car that you're chasing, that may be often the better way to think about it.
Cast your mind back 2.5 hours. Remember how Philip Eng led the race. Remember how they lost time in the first pit stop. Remember how the car, as Richard Westbrook outlaps himself, or tries to, against Marcus Winkelhock. Remember how Philip Eng's car never really recovered, and we saw it going slowly. Well, now it has been awarded a 15-second stop-go penalty for a pit stop violation. But that was awarded a long time ago, and it has not taken it. So now the car is being black flagged, and it's not responding to that either.
Well, you know, a racing driver's got a certain capacity, a mental capacity, and lots of racing drivers have got the ability to look forward. Not all of them have got the great sort of peripheral ability, but some of them haven't even got the fundamental. They can't even see a flag, or if they see the black flag, they mightn't even know their car number.
There is, of course, a little man on the radio saying pit. You can turn that off, I suppose, can't you?
I somehow doubt, if you can't pick up a black flag, I somehow doubt you'd know where the switch or the button in the cockpit is to turn the radio off. I don't know. We'll maybe find out, you know, in the tales of woe following this 3-hour endurance, I would say, not endurance, 3-hour flat-out sprint here at Monza this afternoon.
Carlos Cray is the man behind the wheel of the car in question 77. Meantime, how is Marcus Winkelhock getting on? He's still 9th, and because of Richard Westbrook getting in and amongst them, he's of course dropped away now from 25. This car, we've hardly seen it all day, but 25 BMW, there it is coming towards us. Henri Hassin and Ludovic Badet up now to 2nd in Pro-Am, to 8th overall. That is a new team to the championship, TDS, a really solid job. A very, very good effort for everybody involved. Ludovic Badet switching from Ferrari, Henri Hassin switching from Porsche, TDS switching from the Euro Cup Megane Trophy into this championship. It's all knitting together very nicely.
I have to say, a lot of that's just simply washing over me.
Thank you for your support. I will wear it always. The lead gap, John, is coming down. 17 seconds it's down to now. Adam Carroll, meantime, is continuing to catch Edward Sundstrom. There's Richard Westbrook trying to get himself past Henri Hassid. He's about to get through. Hassid lets him go, I think. And who's quicker than anybody in the middle sector of the entire race? René Rast. He's a long way down in 15th, but the Porsche Super Cup star is proving what he can do in an Audi. Right, Adam Carroll then, catching for third place. There's the second place McLaren, and there's third, and there's fourth behind. You can see that Adam Carroll is almost within striking distance now of Edward Sundstrom.
I mean, 26 minutes remaining, so really not a problem. There is the car we were talking about. The driver steps out of it, and really, the pure Carlos Cray, I wonder what he's thinking, but he's been given the black flag, and well, I don't know how many times it was actually waved to him, but he's finally made it into the pits. The car will be retired. Shame for all the great work that was done in the opening stint by Philippe Eng, because that car was a leading car up until the point when Buncombe in the Nissan got way past.
So it was a good first stint, but it's ended in a very bad way by being brought into the pit lane by the race director. It will remain. Lead gap is down to 15 seconds now. Andy Soucek is going after Zampieri. Okay, is he genuinely catching, or is Zampieri looking after fuel? We may not yet know.
Well, we will find out, no doubt, in 25 minutes and 30 seconds, or a little bit more than that, because we've got to get down to the Parc Fermé to find out what were the various woes of Zampieri, if he has any at all, or he doesn't need. In fact, I mean, the gap is, what, 15 seconds and 25 minutes to go for Soucek to take the best part of 3/4 of a second on every lap with the traffic around the racetrack and not put himself into jeopardy with fuel, the volume of fuel remaining in his tank. Nevertheless, Soucek will go for it, much in the same way we're seeing the battle for third place. If you're watching right now on screen, Edward Sundstrom coming up to Lesmo to the corner that really allowed his second place to become third place.
And he lost 3/10 in that first sector alone. So Adam Carroll now is hunting him down, and it's great motivation, isn't it, to then finally see ahead of you the car that you're chasing. You've been doing it off the stopwatch, you've been looking at the gap, you've been hearing what the gap is over the pit-to-car radio, but now Adam can hunt down that car legitimately. He can see it in his sights. In the background there is Mark Hayek's Lamborghini, and this little squabble going on as the SMG challenge Ferrari, no, sorry, Porsche I should say, 83. Nicola Armindo was going so strongly with there in 17th place. Now, the third, Sundstrom versus Carroll. Down they come towards the Parabolica, and Adam within the middle sector took another 10th back. For third place, up towards the line comes Edward Sandstrom. He's on borrowed time for third place, because there behind him, hunting him down, is Adam Carroll. His first race in this car, and Adam now getting a lot more comfortable, I think, behind the wheel of the McLaren. He can see the Audi ahead of him, and the gap as they come over the line is 9/10 of a second, but then a back marker is put between the two of them.
Yeah, and not the most ideal situation for the chasing Gulf Racing McLaren, and he will hopefully now put the McLaren into the position of coming up to the second chicane here at Monza, where he can get alongside it before the brake zone. But we've seen this Ferrari earlier in the race having good top-down speed. Adam Carroll forcing his way around the outside. Is he clear? He is clear. The Ferrari's conceded the ground, and in fact he's lost nothing. In fact, maybe even marginally gained as they come through this chicane.
23 minutes remain, that is all, and the lead gap is down to 15 seconds. Andy Soucek is certainly not giving up. Nick Katzberg has been shown a driving standards flag for ignoring the track limits in the now 11th place Mark VDS BMW. I say ignoring the track limits, that's a bit harsh. We know he's got a brake problem, and if that brake problem is getting worse, he's going to struggle to get the car slowed down for the corners, isn't he?
Not a nice situation, having a brake pedal that you don't have confidence in. You're always just dabbing it before you get to the brake zone to make sure the pedal is there. The last thing you want to do is commit to the brake pedal and then have it just simply go straight to the firewall. Horrible feeling for any racing driver.
The third place, here they come. Sundstrom versus Adam Carroll, heading down once more towards the Parabolica. For them, this is lap 81. The leader has gone by. Daniel Zampieri from Kessel Racing continues to lead, but the real question is what progress, if any, towards him is being made by Andy Soucek. Last time through, the gap was around the 15-second mark. Here comes the third place fight. It's still hovering around 15 seconds between the top two, and in fact on that lap Soucek drops back by a couple of tenths. third place. Sundström is 7/10 ahead of Carroll. That gap continues to come down. Soucek there being held up in traffic.
Yep, he just had to say, I can't quite make it this time, so I'll just be cautious. I'll get him on the exit of the chicane. Adam Carroll now, literally, you couldn't put a stopwatch between the two of them. 0.3 or so of a second. Again, it's the drive of some of these cars. The McLaren's got a huge amount of torque with that turbocharged V8 engine. But of course, with a turbo engine, as good as modern electronics are and modern turbos are, you always feel that there's something just at the point you pick up the throttle that doesn't quite deliver like a fully aspirated engine does in the Audi, the V10 Audi engine. But Carroll now, again, pressure under brakes, accelerating down to Lesmo 1.
So how long before he finds a way through? And of course, in a GT car around here, overtaking place is rather different from in a single-seater. Adam, of course, had a brief spell in the DTM. He had a go for Audi in the final FIA GT1 World Championship races at Donington Park at the end of last season. He drove for Vita 4-1 at Silverstone in Blancpain last year in a BMW, so he's not inexperienced when it comes to having a roof over his head, but he doesn't know much about the McLaren, but he's learning fast.
He is learning fast, and this form of racing, there is always a compromise when you take a production road car, modify it for motor racing, as opposed to driving a pure out-and-out single-seater which is designed for nothing other than motor racing.
And there, look in the background, Andrea Bertolini, who is running fifth, is catching them as well. So this battle for third is developing, and Bertolini is going to be up with him. In other words, John, Adam Carroll's got to get past this Audi before he's got his mirrors full of Ferrari.
Absolutely, and Andrea Bertolini gone about his job in the typical professional manner that he does. He's getting a sense of the fumes from the rear of the McLaren. He's thinking, well, can I actually make this a possible podium? Make it a Ferrari 1-3. Hard to imagine it right now, but look at Adam Carroll right up the back of the Audi, gets down alongside. Can he do them and brakes side by side?
Has to back out of it. It was the right thing to do on the outside, otherwise there'd have been contact, but he's now proved he's got the speed, and he's also made sure that Edward Sundström knows he's there. Sundström now is feeling massive pressure.
Yeah, but he had the pressure and he didn't buckle. He eyeballed Adam Cooper going into the first chicane. Now Adam Cooper looking to come back again, thinking about going down the inside, has to stay on the right hand side of the track into the second chicane. So the McLaren, clearly the quicker of the two cars. Sundström under intense pressure from the Ulsterman, looks to go down the inside into Lesmo 1, forget it. In the meantime, keep an eye on the Ferrari. Bertolini, he's loving all this.
And he's almost there, isn't he? He's being gifted this because of the squabbles that are going on ahead of him. So here they come now then, making their way once again out of the second Lesmo corner. This is lap 83. And we have got 19 minutes to go, and that's Nick Katzberg in the pits. This brake problem has got to the point where he's really struggling to go any further.
Well, is it air? Is it pads? What is it? We don't know. Certainly they're working on the caliper. It's Adam Carroll again, and Bertolini has just chased these two cars down so quickly in the last 3 or so laps that Adam Carroll needs to be very clearly aware that while he's challenging, he is now going to be challenged by a car that is a quick car in a straight line.
Tell you what, the stewards and the race director are brave because they've just given a drive-through penalty to the championship sponsor. Mark Hayek of Blancpain has been given a drive-through penalty.
You've got to be fair to everybody.
Absolutely so. Dust settles at the Parabolica. Third, Sundström comes up towards the line. Fourth, Carroll behind him. Fifth, Bertolini. They go over the timing line. What's the lead gap doing? It's 16 seconds. It's still looking good for Zampieri, fuel permitting. Over the line goes Sundström. Adam Carroll's not quite close enough to attack this time, but Andrea Bertolini is getting closer and closer and closer.
The thing that Bertolini's got in his favour is that he's been able to run these two cars down and not lose momentum. He now may lose that momentum, but up until now, he's run them down. He needed to try and get closer to Adam Carroll into turn one, or he needs to wait and use the Ferrari strengths to get the advantage and put himself into a overtaking position down the inside into turn second chicane. Gets out of it wisely, not through.
The danger here, though, John, surely, is that Carroll spends so much time defending, he takes the slower lines, and the gap ahead of him widens. Sundström will get away.
Sundström, McLaren, Lamborghini drives through. So for Sundström, this is actually manna from heaven. It's taking pressure off him. He can focus on what he needs to do. Adam Carroll is now the driver that's got the greater pressure because he's got the Ferrari all over the back of the McLaren and the straight line speed of these Ferraris all weekend. The BMW back. This brake's been attended to. the straight line speed of the Ferrari has been outstanding. Quickest, I think, of all was 280.1 kilometers per hour.
So Edward Sundstrom, who is under pressure, but as you made the point, John, he's not buckled under it. He's still there third, despite having quicker cars breathing down his neck, down to the Parabolica. Look at this, 17 minutes of the race remain. Up front, Daniel Zampieri, barring a disaster, looks like he's going to give the Italian fans lots to cheer about with a Ferrari win on home soil. That'll be a first, because 2 years ago Porsche won at Monza, and then it was BMW last year. So a Ferrari win in Blancpain at Monza would be a first in the short history of the championship. But Andy Soucek second is dropping back now. Is it going to be Bertolini to attack Carroll, or Carroll to attack for third place against Sundstrom? It's Ferrari versus McLaren.
It's most definitely is Bertolini looking to get down the inside. Adam Carroll braking, following the line of the Audi, but the Ferrari again. Good brain, good racing brain from Bertolini. Had the opportunity, but he knew that by braking later, he wouldn't slow that Ferrari down sufficiently to be able to make the very tight right-hand turn as you enter the chicane. But a good run off the second through the Curva Grande. Can he do it down into the second chicane? Not the ideal place to do it. And Adam Carroll really getting a bit sort of keen to take the Ferrari out of this equation. It's becoming uncomfortable for the McLaren driver.
Well, the danger is that it's going to be taken out of his hands, because Bertolini is looking a lot more likely to get past Adam Carroll than Adam is to get past Edward Sundstrom, isn't he now? So the Audi hangs on to third, but how much longer is it going to be Gulf McLaren ahead of the AF Corsa Ferrari? Andrea Bertolini, well, he's attacked to the first chicane. That didn't work. He had a look at the second chicane. Not really the best place. Is he close enough at the Variante Ascari? Not yet, he's not, but as they come now up the other side of the bridge, under the banking, he looks to the inside line. Is he near enough? No. Slots back in.
It's all about preparation. You've got to work out on the racetrack where your strongest areas are. You've got to think about where the car you're chasing, is it strong there as well? You've got to work it out. And to me, the best shot for the Ferrari. Do your homework, get Parabolica right, get the run off. McLaren is being slowed by the Audi. Don't run too close to Adam Carroll under brakes. Give yourself a chance to get on the throttle and drive the Ferrari hard off the corner. Bertolini didn't really do as much as I feel he could have done on that last exit out of the Parabolica, but he picks up the slipstream. Now we'll look again to make a move. Adam Carroll staying in the middle of the racetrack. Can Bertolini go down the inside? It's very close.
Has a look, thinks better of it, and Carroll brakes very late and the car snakes. He hangs on to it. That was a good save, but will that compromise him on exit? I think it might just do. Andrea Bertolini is right there behind him. A tiny error from Adam Carroll. He got away with that.
Yeah, I wasn't quite sure. I thought that Carroll maybe had caught the side of the racetrack. The car just gave that little snap that looks like when you hit the grass. And the Bertolini close to the rear of the McLaren. Carroll having to go defensive, staying in the middle of the road. These three cars covered by just about a second.
But of course, even though Adam Carroll is having to defend, it's spurring him on. He's getting closer again to Sundstrom. And he has to, because Bertolini is right there. So Adam Carroll is trying to attack and defend at the same time. Really difficult for him. First race in the McLaren. Could he be busier?
What Edward Sundstrom can actually do is, in different parts of the circuit, back up Adam Carroll into the Ferrari, and then by doing so he can accelerate off the corner to gain the advantage. So it puts the pressure on Adam Carroll to balance what he's doing and try and keep an eye on Bertolini. Bertolini gets up alongside, gets into the Ascari.
Oh, over the curve they almost rub. Adam Carroll fends him off. 13 minutes remain of a 3-hour endurance race, and they are still at it like this. Great stuff.
Well, Edward Sundstrom, if that's what you were doing, it worked a treat, because Adam Carroll's the man now who's having to deal with the pressure, and you've opened up a small gap. So, Edward Sundstrom, did you work it out, or was it just fortuitous? But look, Bertolini absolutely side by side, but Adam Carroll goes the long way around. Bertolini had to ride the curve, entering into the Ascari chicane, got out of the throttle, gave Carroll the room. Here we go again.
Was that the mark of Adam Carroll as a racer, though? Others would have thought, well, he's alongside, I'll back out of it. Adam does not. He thinks, I'm still going to fight for this. And on the outside line, he stood his ground and he held on to the place.
Yeah, but the point is, he knew the Ferrari was there. He didn't pinch the car. He gave it room to work. He knew that if he could go around the outside, then the next part of the chicane, the right-hander, would play to Carroll's strengths. So that's what racing drivers do. They don't just simply shut their eyes and turn the wheel. Or the good ones don't anyway.
But as you say, Sundstrom has managed to build a bit more of a gap as a result of all of that. The lead gap is extending as well. You get the feeling Andy Soucek settling for second place. When it comes to third, fourth and fifth here, nobody is settling for anything. There's Frank Schnippler looking on.
You think it was cold here, Frank, wearing his beanie?
Well, he's being corporate, isn't he? You see, because he can get the Audi message across by doing that, but it is far from cold. And out on track, battle is ablaze, isn't it? Because you've got Schnippler's car, Edwin Sundstrom at the wheel of it, ahead of Adam Carroll in the Gulf Racing McLaren, ahead of Andrea Bertolini, who's going to have another go.
Absolutely, Bertolini. Lovely exit out of the second Lesmo. Got a good run. Maybe not going to be quite as committed, and looks down. No, he doesn't. He has to back off and fall in behind the rear of Adam Carroll's McLaren. Again, traffic now. This is going to hurt Sundstrom. It's going to help Carroll a little bit. And runs so wide, Adam Carroll way wide on the exit as they try to find their way past. Well, they can't quite get past the BMW. Sundstrom does it, Carroll does it. Now Bertolini gets through, and that was a tense moment for all three in this battle for third place.
But Bertolini's effort at the chicane has already started, hasn't it? He's got a good run through the parabolica, so he's got to stay right on the throttle all the way through the corner. This is the replay of Carroll's error.
Well, where is it? There it's coming now. Carroll gets... Well, in fact, Sundstrom, but Carroll's a big, really very lucky that the car didn't take a bite and turn sharp right. So let's look at Bertolini again as we come down into the chicane. No, not able to do it, but the traffic is going to be the key to these final 10 minutes of this 3-hour sprint. Forget about endurance, it's the sprint.
So Bertolini again with a good exit from the chicane through turns 1 and 2 up towards the Curva Grande. He's looking for a way by. Now, a good run here will set him up nicely for the second chicane. Let's see. He tries to go towards the outside of Adam Carroll there, which will be the inside for the first part of the chicane. Adam Carroll knows he's there. Here comes Bertolini. There's a gap, but he's not able to get up alongside.
Adam Carroll, great on the brakes, but again, as the exit, he's so late on the brakes, he doesn't get the maximum potential off the corner into the Lesmo. So that puts Bertolini in the position to sniff, to really frustrate Adam Carroll, trying to defend this fourth position, but he's really been battling for third now. As we anticipated, the battle is about fourth place. Third is beginning to look like it's going to go Audi's way.
Ignore all the races Andrea Bertolini has won. He has won GT championships outright 4 times in his career, but he can't get past Adam Carroll, who is doing a stunning job of hanging on to fourth place through the Variante Ascari. Once again they come, and Edwin Sundstrom has done it. He's put a back marker between himself and Carroll, so Adam has got to defend down towards the parabolica. He hugs the inside line, so that means that Bertolini will have to attack on the outside unless he can somehow sell Adam Carroll a dummy.
But the Ferrari between the third and fourth place battle, Bertolini doesn't need to look down the inside, but again, Adam Carroll saw the Ferrari, didn't pinch the Ferrari on the entry to the corner, gave himself working room. So can he get past that lap Ferrari? Bertolini goes behind the Ferrari to pick up the draft as much as it's possible. Adam Cooper in the middle of the race. Adam Cooper, journalist, Adam Carroll,
who's writing his own message in this as he almost leans on the back marker coming into the chicane. Bertolini's got to get through and he's delayed. The back marker had to turn in sooner or later. It was, I'm afraid, ahead of Bertolini, so Carroll breathes an enormous sigh of relief. He's got a couple of corners grace.
And he's got probably the best part of 30 or more metres in that little adventure through the first chicane, and that will be joy for Adam Carroll.
So can he do anything about Sundstrom, because there are no back markers between the Swede and the Northern Irishman? Look, the gap comes down, but Bertolini is right back with them as well.
There's a sort of telepathy that goes on between some of these Ferrari drivers, particularly with Bertolini leading the charge to try and make it a Ferrari first and third on the podium. So Bertolini was given a bit of a helping hand and getting through, more so than probably the case of Adam Carroll.
So third is Audi, fourth is McLaren, and in fifth is Ferrari. They are covered by just over a second. Can I suggest the balanced performance works pretty well around here, because there you've got 3 different types of car, 3 different brands being represented, and they are all so evenly matched. 7 3/4 minutes of the race remain. Up front, Daniel Zampieri is driving a very measured final stint in this race, and Andy Soucek looks like he's having to settle for second place in the ART Grand Prix McLaren, but for third it could not be a fiercer fight, because Adam Carroll now makes an attack on the outside coming down to the parabolica. Can he go all the way around the outside? Can he get ahead before the corner? Yes, he can. He gets his nose in front, but it's the wrong line. Adam's going to be hugely brave. If he comes out of here ahead, they lean on each other almost. The Audi will be ahead, but Adam Carroll is standing his ground. Look at this, fantastic. 7 minutes on the clock. Adam Carroll right round the outside. He's on the wrong line for the first chicane though, because it's on the outside, and it looks as though the Audi is going to get its nose back in front, down to the braking area. Who is going to blink first? Adam on the outside line, and they're going to touch. They do, they rub again, and Sundström goes through and he hangs onto the place.
But there's Adam Carroll who's in jeopardy because he had to give up at the last minute. That's allowed Bertolini to come back and put pressure yet again. We saw a situation like that with Carroll and Sundström 20 minutes ago, and Sundström faced down Adam Carroll under brakes on the inside line into the first chicane, and he's done it again.
Brilliant racing. Back marker gets in the way of Andrea Bertolini once again, so the Italian loses the opportunity to challenge going into the second chicane, and what this means is that Adam Carroll now can try and hunt down Edward Sundström. We've got 6 more minutes of the race to go. Somebody hide the checkered flag, will he? Because for third place, this is epic, isn't it? Sundström still with a bit of breathing space. When Adam Carroll came over the line, he was ahead by 0.07 of a second, but it's Edward Sundström that's definitely got track position at the moment, and Bertolini now is looking to try to get himself back onto the tail of the McLaren. 6 minutes less now remain here at Monza for the opening Blancpain Endurance Series race of 2013. So Adam Carroll runs third, having taken over from Nico Verdonk. Let's hear from the Belgian now.
Nico, brilliant racing out there. Adam could gain a place, he could lose a place. Which way do you think it's going to go?
He has to win one place. We're here to win. But at the moment he's doing a really good job. We can see that we definitely have a lock-up talk against the Ferraris who pull away against us. Obviously we come back towards the end of the straight, but that makes it very hard to overtake. So yeah, we just have to keep fighting and make sure we can close the gap and pass the Audi.
Best of luck.
Thanks.
Best of luck, it may well be needed. 5 more minutes remain. The gap between Audi and McLaren is coming down. Look at the first chicane, and poor old Bertolini has now been dealt another really daft hand here of back markers because he can't stay on the tail of Adam Carroll. He's got to work his way, elbows out, through the back markers. Let's have a look at this. They came over the timing line last time. Sundström, Carroll, Bertolini. This was the lap on which Adam Carroll just had his nose in front by 0.07 of a second. But Edward Sundström did everything right. He stood his ground on the inside, and look at this, he tried to move across and take the line. They kissed, they rubbed. Adam Carroll did his best to stay there, but eventually the Audi with that shorter, tighter inside line went ahead, and then he had to repel the advance of Bertolini behind him. 4 more minutes remain. Still don't know who's going to be third. Edward Sundström has held on to it for the bulk of this hour. Souček got past him. We thought, having lost one place, he might lose more, but this has been a really good defence against Adam Carroll. Andrea Bertolini is in 5th spot, and Maxime Martin, who was running 6th, is falling away. Marcus Winkelhock back up into 6th. 7th he's already SC'd in the BMW. So Maxime Martin drops into 8th place overall now. In 9th place is Adam Christodoulou in the Black Falcon Mercedes, and in 10th place you've got Christopher Hasse in Phoenix's Audi that he's taken over from Oliver Jarvis and Harold Primat that we've barely seen all day. It's been a really anonymous car. This, however, has drawn lots of attention to itself, and quite rightly. Ferrari leads at Monza, and with now 3.5 minutes to go, 2 more laps after this one. It's looking good, isn't it, for Kessel Racing? Adam Carroll comes over the timing line, not as close to Edward Sundström as he needs to be. Behind him is Andrea Bertolini. Andy Souček, remember, is still there in 2nd place, but not able to do anything about the lead gap. Carroll closing down to the first chicane. He's got the toe, he's under the rear wing, but that pesky back marker Ferrari is looking to try to unlap itself. The car in question is the one that was on pole position, Alessandro Pierguidi, 15th, but lapping on the same pace as those around him. So he's a lap down, technically should get out of the way, but his pace is good enough to run with these cars. That's why he can attack Adam Carroll. That's why he's got the pace to stay ahead of Bertolini. It's not that he's deliberately getting in the way, he's just got that natural speed in the car. Sundström down towards the 2nd chicane. Adam Carroll, perhaps on the radio, will be told he could afford to let the Ferrari by, but then Edward Sundström would have to let him by as well to really equate the battle. So Adam Carroll, for the time being, is having to defend from the back marker perversely, and he wants to try, if he can, to do something about Edward Sandstrom, but with only 2 minutes and change on the clock, it's going to be a very difficult task now. Nicola Armindo in the 83 Porsche up into 16th place there, going through. The fiery Frenchman, being taken over for this last stint in the car, going strongly. And Mark Hayek back into the pit lane after a difficult race in the Lamborghini, I noticed. Right, there is Sundstrom. Turns his way through the chicane. This the best of the 3 Belgian Audi Club Team WRT entries in the race. Adam Carroll is not quite close enough. The race leader is going to be able to get one more lap out of it at the end of this, I would suggest. Comes now out of the first chicane, finds himself in traffic. He's got one of the M-Tech Ferraris ahead of him, which is the Tara Borelli Gomez Menendez, all Argentine entry. Right round the outside goes Zampieri. Last year he was very, very quick. He proved that in races, he proved it in qualifying when he took pole positions, but never a race win went the way of Castle Racing, and it looks as though that is going to change here at Monza. 1 minute and 20 seconds remain. Second is still Soucek. Now this is the third. Edward Sandstrom is ahead just of Adam Carroll, and then you've got Alessandro Pierguidi behind them in 15th place, and Andrea Bertolini looks as though now he's struggling to get back up with them. There he is. Important for Bertolini, however, is that he is on target for Pro-Am Cup honours, and the leading gentleman driver there is Patrice Goyla, leading the gentleman trophy in the number 20 Sofra Ferrari. This is the car that he shares with the Jean-Lucs, Blanchemin and Bobelic. Patrice Goyla, we've seen be very quick in Pro-Am in the past, but this year they all take a step down. Adam Carroll has lost out to Pierguidi, and that now means that he's on the back foot because Andrea Bertolini looks for a way past. Alessandro Pierguidi not really helping, as I say, he's a lap down, but he's got the right speed to run with these drivers, and he's proving to be quicker than Carroll, hence he finds a way through. Zampieri with 20 seconds to go, he could just about afford to back right off here and make this the last corner, but he's going to squeeze one more lap out of the race. Over the timing line, starts his last lap now. 10 seconds of the race remain. Through he goes. So Daniel Zampieri looks as though victory is his, barring a disaster on this last lap of the race. Cesar Ramos and Davide Rigon, his 2 co-drivers, set to celebrate as over the line comes Andy Soucek. There he is in second spot, and for third it is still Edward Sundstrom. There is Adam Carroll, who has dropped quite a long way back, hasn't he now, because of the effects of the traffic. Quite a few people, I think, coming down the pit lane would rather have wished that Zampieri hadn't squeezed another lap out of this, because it might affect the fuel calculations a bit. Meantime, we're on the last lap. The top 5 have all gone across the timing line. There coming towards us is the American driver Steve Doherty, who's in a good 14th in the Nissan that led early on. Edward Sandstrom, if he were to let Pierguidi go, would suddenly find his mirrors full once again of Adam Carroll. He wants to lap Steve Doherty, who is getting in the way a little bit there in the Nissan. That's compromising him, that's for sure. That should help both Pierguidi and, in turn, Adam Carroll get a bit closer to him. Half a lap remains for Daniel Zampieri. Goes under that bridge that really effectively is the banking, the Monza banking. Down now towards the Marianne Ascari. 2 straights and 1 corner remain after that. Through comes the race-leading car. Zampieri rides the curbs. And a Ferrari win at Monza on a sunny day. What more could the Tifosi want here at this opening round of the Blancpain Endurance Series? Ahead, back markers busy flashing their headlights, but Zampieri is under no threat. He's got the best part of 20 seconds in hand. He can afford to stroke it home from here. Last corner, checkered flag at the ready. It's going to be a win for Castle Racing. Daniel Zampieri, the man behind the wheel of the car, Davide Rigon and Cesar Ramos are set to be winners in the opening Blancpain Endurance Series race of 2013. The flag falls, Ferrari wins at Monza, Castle Racing is delighted. The Ferrari victorious, a great stint by Daniel Zampieri. Here for second is the McLaren. ALT Grand Prix car comes over the line. Andy Soucek brings it home after a good effort, not just by him, but also early on by Antoine Leclerc, and Mike Parisi did a solid job in the middle stint. But for third, they're going to be overlapping coming out of the last corner. Adam Carroll's done it. He's got his nose in front, but Sandstrom fights back as they come to the timing line. They go through as a virtual dead heat, and Adam Carroll has done it by 28 thousandths of a second as they came over the line. Adam Carroll snatches third on the line by 28 thousandths of a second. Behind them for fifth, Andrea Bertolini comes home. and 6th should be Marcus Winkelhock in the Audi. He's a long way back, but he should be on target for 6th place. What a race. Drama all the way, not just in terms of all the way through the race, but all the way up and down the order. In the end, it was a relatively easy win for the Ferrari, but there's some fierce fighting lower down. 6th goes to Winkelhock, 7th over the line to Henri Hassid, 8th to Maxime Martin, 9th Christopher Hasse, 10th goes to Adam Christodoulou, and Maxime Martin, as soon as he's taken the checkered flag, pulls the car off the road in order to make sure that there is the 2 kilos of fuel left, obligatory for the fuel sampling. So that does go to show how marginal they were. As soon as Maxime Martin had come over the line, he's parked the car on the run down to the first chicane. Fantastic stuff to start the year in the Blancpain Endurance Series. Daniel Zampieri, I think it's fair to say that's an overdue maiden win for him and Davide Rigon. They were partners last year. Cesar Ramos joins the team for 2013 and has proved that he is a very good addition to the squad. So the Ferrari makes its way back towards the pit lane. Daniel Zampieri victorious then. He's the man that takes the checkered flag. Ramos and Rigon, his 2 co-drivers, will join him on the podium. The top 3 all out of the Pro class. Pro-Am, Andrea Bertolini, Louis Machiels, Nick Thomas are the winners. Henri Hassid and Ludovic Badet second. And third in the class was Klaus Hummel, Steve Jans and Adam Christodoulou in the Mercedes. Good effort by Andy Soucek. Great effort by Adam Carroll. Well, he tried hard all the way through that hour, but he timed it just about right, didn't he? He got third on the line, 28 thousandths of a second. And Adam Carroll worked hard for that podium result. He deserved it. So to be fair, did Edward Sandstrom deserve to be third? But in the end, it's the Gulf Racing McLaren that comes home to sort out third spot for the drivers, the last place on the podium. There's the winning Ferrari. Such was its lead. It's already back in the pit lane long before anybody else, but it's gone to its team by the look of it, rather than to Parc Fermé, and he's now going to have to reverse up the pit lane. Let's see. Well, the car parks for the moment. Top 3 teams out of each of the 3 classes will go to the podium, and I think, yes, the Parc Fermé area has been extended given the fact you're going to need 9 cars. So Daniel Zampieri is okay. He can park it, he can get out, and as soon as the crash helmet comes off, he can explain that last stint to John Watson. What a drive by Daniel Zampieri. He wins by 18 seconds. The Italian wins. John Watson is down to talk to him.
Daniel Zampieri, sweet as a nut, great victory.
Yes, it is our first victory for the Blancpain with the Ferrari 458, so the season started well, and we hope for the next race that we can do better than today. We should thanks to the team and to my teammate.
And of course, winning for Ferrari at Monza always very special.
Every time is special for Ferrari winning here, because Ferrari is born in Italy, so we are in a race house.
Well, congratulations to Cesar and to David. Great job all day.
Oh sure, great job too.
A delighted Daniel Zampieri poses for the cameras, and the rapid Italian driver will make his way shortly to the podium, but before that there are some celebrations, I think, to begin with Cesar Ramos and with Davide Rigon. Drama all the way through the race in all 3 classes. Silverstone is the next stop, then Paul Ricard, and the last 2 races, Spa 24 Hours, and new for this year, the Nürburgring 1,000 kilometres. We're down from 6 to 5 races for 2013, but that last race with extra points in the 1,000 kilometres at the Nürburgring, and that also promises to be a great race. The Spa 24 Hours is always a wonderful event. If you've never been, what's stopping you? And Paul Ricard at the end of June will be well worth watching. Silverstone next stop. Silverstone, where Adam Carroll made his debut, and he's third today.
Adam Carroll, you're born a racing driver, and you showed that this afternoon.
Thank you, John. You weren't too bad yourself in your day, so yeah, look, you just never give up, and you could have given up quite a few times during that stint, and I had the pace, but we just need a wee bit more grunt out of the quarters and we'll be all right. But you know, I had to fight for it, and that's what it's all about.
And how much pressure did you feel from behind with Bertolini?
Loads, because he wasn't even in the same class, so I didn't really know what to do. But you know, it was just, you're absolutely flat out all the way, and it's really quite hard work. So fair play to everybody out there.
Adam, just quickly explain to us, how did you finally get past the Audi?
Well, I knew it was a little bit stronger in the mid part of Parabolica, so I just knew he was going to be tight then because of the car in front, so I just braked a little bit early, turned in and got the better exit, and that was it. I knew that was money opportunity, so I took it.
Celebrations reported on tonight?
I hope so, yeah.
Good job, well done.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
So Adam Carroll, who has battled through the single-seater categories for many years, he did go to the DTM, but then was offered a GP2 drive, so he switched away from that, back to single-seaters.
I don't
of course, was a real star in A1 GP, but I think now has decided that a GT driver's life is for him, and it's good to see him. And good to see him going so well and on the podium. Rob Bell and Nico Verdonk will join him there, finishing in third place. 3 podiums, 3 classes. The podium is being prepared, you can see it there over the pit straight on one side and the pit lane on the other. And cars on track are the course officials, having finished their work for the day. Now, Andy Soucek, a great drive to take second place. Let's hear from the Spaniard now with John Watson.
Andy Soucek, great drive for second place. Looked very lonely at one point, though.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I think we did an amazing job. The team did a very good pit stops. But I think this race is actually from Antoine Leclerc. He did an amazing start. He put the car P3, and from then Mike and I, we just didn't have to do mistakes, and we made it to second. It's great, really great.
Mike, what do you think of the drive?
I think it's a very good weekend for the team ART and McLaren, so I am very happy to work with and all my teammates.
And Antoine, superb job for you. Excellent. You're delighted.
It's an incredible race, and thank you to all of guys in our Grand Prix, Mike, Andy. We did a fantastic job during this weekend, so it's very good.
Get on the podium, guys, and enjoy it. Well done.
Mike Parisi, who was a late addition to the team only in the last few days, was it confirmed that he would be taking the seat rather than Duncan Tappy, who drove in the ART Grand Prix last year. Duncan working very hard to get himself back into the championship. Fingers crossed for him, the underrated, very rapid British driver. Disappointing that he's not here this weekend, disappointing that he's on the sidelines, but hopefully a drive can be found for him. He'll be back in the championship soon. Whether Mike Parisi does a full season remains to be seen, but for ART Grand Prix, it's second place. So Ferrari, McLaren, top 3. How different the McLarens have been this year compared to last. Let's confirm the way they came over the line. Castle Racing victorious from ART Grand Prix, Gulf Racing, and then Belgian Audi WRT, the Belgian Audi Club car, in 4th. And of course they are all in the Pro Cup. AF Corsa 5th, Machiels, Homerson and Bertolini car, that takes honours in Pro-Am. Phoenix Racing for 6th, Enzo Ida, Anthony Kumpen, Marcus Finkelhock, and then the impressive TDS BMW of Henri Hassid and Ludovic Badet. Ahead of Bas Linders, Jelmer Burman and Maxime Martin. 8th ahead of Harold Primat, Oliver Jarvis and Christopher Hasse. Klaus Hummel, Steve Jansen, Adam Christodoulou. 10th ahead of the Beach Team, Aston and Stephane Ortelli, Laurence Vantour and René Rast. 12th again from the Pro Cup. The 13th, the Insight Racing Ferrari. Yet again, goes to the finish, does a solid job, only was a lap down. Dennis Anderson and Martin Jensen looking as strong as ever. From pole, the number 70 Ferrari ends up in 14th place, having led the first stint. The Buncombe, Ordonez, Doherty, Nissan is 15th. Nicola Armindo brings the Porsche up to 16th place in the end, and a troubled race for Rahal Frey, Nicky Mar Malhoff and Matt Halliday, 17th ahead of Richard Westbrook, Mike Stursberg and Hans Guido Riegel, 18th in the Haribo Porsche. 19th, the Gentleman Trophy winners, Patrice Gouillard and the Jean-Lucs Blanchemin et Bobelic. 20th goes to Garofano, Caccia and Bontempelli. 21st, the Nissan GT Academy car of Szulzicki, Pizzera and Wright, ahead of the JRM car of Lucas Law, Stephen Kane and Peter Dumbrecht, delayed early on by a puncture. 23rd, the second ART McLaren of Jan Gaudi, Gilles Vanelay and Gregoire de Moustier, ahead of the AF Corsa car of Barreros and Guedes. 25th is where you find Hexis Racing, a long way down for many people's tip for a race win, but the engine problem we heard about really ruined their race. 26th, the Jones brothers, another irrepressible effort ahead of the better Vita 4-1 BMW. Greg Franchi, Spinner Colombo and Frank Keckler way down 27th ahead of Frey, Gardal and Freddie Bart. 28th, the Sport Garage Ferrari. 29th, Georges Caban, along with Gorini and Brandella, ahead of Ricci, Balthazar and Jerome Policon for 30th. The second JRM Nissan, 31st of Hamed Al Massoud, Charles Bateman and Matt Bell. Pro GT by Almera's Porsche, 32nd. ARC Bratislava's Porsche, 33rd. And 34th is where you find SMP's second Ferrari of Ladijin, Alyoshin and Shaita. 35th after the puncture, Jake Rattenbury, Andrew Danilov and Stephen Jelly. 36th, brake problems compromising Paltela, Moser and Katzberg. In the end, 3 laps down. 37th, Kessel Racing's 111 Ferrari that was in the gravel when Thomas Kanemater was at the wheel of the car. He, Zanatini and Gattuso come home 37th ahead of Thierry Prignot, Thierry Stepak and Lionel Camol. Tarabonelli, Gomez and Menendez are 39th ahead of Zlobin, Rottenberg and Mauve 40th. After that, it's more McLaren, more Ferrari, Lamborghini, and right the way through the results, 48 cars get themselves as classified finishers. So 94 laps done, a 3-hour race. There, look, the pit lane is absolutely heaving as the cars are returned to the teams. The relevant cars are being held by the officials, and the winning drivers go to the podium. Adam Carroll, along with Nico Verdonk, and new dad as well, Rob Bell. Became a dad about a fortnight ago. They're third for Gulf Racing. Great effort from all concerned. For second place, Andy Soucek, Mike Parisi and Antoine Leclerc go for the second step. But for the top, Castle Racing, Ferrari victorious at Monza, Cesar Ramos, Davide Rigon and Daniel Zampieri. The Ferrari 458 Italia takes honours in the opening Blancpain Endurance Series race here at Monza. So Daniel Zampieri, Cesar Ramos and Davide Rigon stand on the top step of the podium at the end of what has been a superb opening round of the championship. Silverstone is the next stop for the Blancpain Endurance Series. Join us either trackside or here for television coverage. From Jack Nicholls in the pits, from John Watson and from me, David Addison, it's goodbye from a Ferrari victory at Monza. So here at Monza, trophies being presented by Alain Delamura from Blancpain. The second place drivers receive their trophies. Now the race winners. Daniel Zampieri, Davide Rigon, Cesar Ramos are the winning drivers. And an excellent, excellent effort by not just them, but by the team as well. We spoke during the course of the race about how sometimes the pit stops has been the Achilles heel for the team. No such problems today. Everything goes very, very strongly on track and in the pits. Trophies in the air, 9 happy drivers, 1 delighted team manager, and now the photographs to be taken. A wet Monza last year, a dry and sunny Monza this year. What happens at Silverstone as the champagne is sprayed here? Last year it was a wet Silverstone as well, but when the Blancpain Endurance Series heads to the UK for the second round of the championship, one question is, can we top 60 cars? Another question is, are we going to have another dry race? 2 safety car periods to factor into this one. And Andy Merrick, who brought out the second safety car after that big impact, glad to say okay. The car a little bit less so. A fuel-efficient Ferrari, wasn't it? Did a good long opening stint. And that, plus the safety car, standing it in good stead to come home there. Adam Carroll being congratulated, Nico Verdonk and Rob Bell, who've been rivals against each other in this championship in the past, now teammates. And the Gulf Racing team working well. Dave Price ran it last year. He has taken a back seat. Matt Beers has been brought in to oversee things. I think the Gulf Racing team will be pretty happy on the whole with its day. Yes, 1 damaged car, but a podium finish for the Pro Cup entry. Not a bad effort at all. So the drivers now make their way to the press conference, but the Pro-Am podium is about to be made ready, and of course after that there is the Gentleman Trophy podium as well. Pro-Am in that last stint, all about Andrea Bertolini and his progress, but he was set up nicely by the earlier efforts of Louis Mackiels, and of course it was Nick Homerson that did the first stint in that car, and again a very good effort by all 3 of them to bring the Ferrari home ahead of BMW, ahead of Mercedes. We didn't really see very much of Adam Christodoulou in the race, but third in the Pro-Am category, a very good effort indeed as the drivers make their way now out onto the podium. Adam Christodoulou and Klaus Hummel have shared in the past cars like Ferraris or McLarens in GT racing. For this year, they move to Mercedes. There, Ludovic Badet arrives on the podium, and along with Henri Acide, takes second in class, defecting Ludovic from Ferrari to BMW, Henri Acide from Porsche to BMW for this year. Steve Jans just going back to the third place team, remaining loyal, of course, to the Mercedes brand for this year. So Ferrari wins across all of the classes, doesn't it? Because it's a victory in Pro-Am as well for Louis Machiels, Nick Homerson and Andrea Bertolini. Generation of Bertolini's look represented on the podium, but Andrea Bertolini along with Louis Machiels and Nick Homerson celebrates a great victory. Trophies are brought forward. Adam Christodoulou in the middle puts on his hat. Steve Jans, the Luxembourg driver, receives his trophy. Klaus Hummel, who we've seen on and off in Blancpain over a few seasons, and Adam Christodoulou comes home with them as the class winner. And it goes to show that with the right driver combination in Pro-Am, you don't need three drivers. Henri Acide and Ludovic Badet, ex-Formula Renault and Renault Megane racer, coming home second. But quick amateurs and a very fast pro triumph. And the winners' trophies for Louis Machiels, Nick Homerson in the background, and Andrea Bertolini now receiving his trophy. Alain Delamura from Blancpain is the man in the white shirt handing over the trophies. And to AF Corsa, there will be a winner's trophy as well. Louis Machiels and Nick Homerson, class champions for the last 2 seasons. On that basis, don't bet against them for another championship this year. Ludovic Badet is keen to get his hands on the champagne look, but aims it initially at the team, then at Andrea Bertolini. Those 9 drivers will go to the press room, having been soaked in champagne. There's just about enough in the bottle to have a drink. Who cops the most of it? AF Corsa. Busy day for AF Corsa, of course, with endurance races in the UK as well, which has taken some of the attention of many of the teams that run multiple programmes across sports car racing. But you've got to go some to find any championship with a 60-car entry. Would have been at least 62, but Fortec struggling to get its Mercedes deals together in time. But more to come at Silverstone, that's for sure. So, 2 down and 1 to go. The last podium coming up in a moment, as the Ferrari, again, proves to be victorious. AF Corsa number 1, definitely in Pro-Am. But in the Gentleman Trophy, it is the Sofrev Autosport Promotion entry of Jean-Luc Public, Jean-Luc Blanchemin and Patrice Guélard that is victorious, from Alessandro Garofano, Beniamino Caccia and Lorenzo Bontempelli, and third in the class for AF Corsa, Felipe Barreras and Francisco Guedes. They will come to the podium in a moment. Ferrari not just winning all 3 classes, but absolutely dominating the Gentleman Trophy. A 1, 2, 3 in class. Ferrari's day of days thus far in Blancpain. And it's good, to be fair, to have another manufacturer, another brand being represented at the top of the podium. So, out come Francisco Guedes and Felipe Barreras. The second place now to the podium come Alessandro Garofano, Beniamino Caccia, who was a class winner here last year, and Lorenzo Bontempelli. Caccia, new car, 430 last year, 458 this year. But then the winners, Jean-Luc Blanchemin, Jean-Luc Bobelic, who are trenchermen, it must be said, and the rather slimmer frame of Patrice Guélard, trying to get himself onto the top step of the podium as well. So drivers then on the podium. Out once more comes the smiling face of Alain Delimura to hand over the trophies to the third place drivers first of all, and that means that the trophies go to Felipe Barreiros and Francisco Guedes. At the other end of the podium you will find the Kessel Racing drivers, Alessandro Garofano, Beniamino Caccia and Lorenzo Bontempelli. But the top step of the podium, a class win, not for the first time in the championship, but for the first time in the Gentleman Trophy, to Sofrev, Autosport Promotion, Jérôme Policon's team, Jean-Luc Bobelic, Jean-Luc Blanchemont and Patrice Guillard celebrate victory here at Monza. And as I say, Ferrari's day of days in the Blancpain Endurance Series, that's for sure. Photographs are taken, trophies are in the air, and in a moment, champagne will be sprayed. Even though they're gentlemen, they still know how to emulate Dan Gurney with the champagne and spray it liberally at each other. They get this, take it home and drink it. One or two try and make a run for it. But the class winners, Jean-Luc Blanchemont, Jean-Luc Bobelic and Patrice Guillard, will soak anybody in sight. A glorious, glorious day in the Italian sunshine at Monza. Great racing, great atmosphere, and Ferrari comes home victorious. Kessel Racing scores its first outright victory in the Blancpain Endurance Series. Next stop is Silverstone. Let's have a look back at what happened in the opening round of the championship and have a look at some of the highlights. And what a start it was. 4 wide down to the first corner. Philip Eng on the inside, Alex Buncombe on the outside. It was the McLaren that turned in ahead, and that triggered basically an hour-long duel between McLaren and Nissan for the race lead. For the opening lap, it was a busy, busy circuit. Cars squabbling all their way around. Bodywork flew from the Santilloc Audi. That pitted as out on track. Ferrari tipped into a spin. The 72 car, Sergei Zlobin at the wheel, turned into the parabolica and was turned into a spin and into the gravel. Rob Barth was busy gaining places. Bounced his way past Christopher Meese at the chicane, but he wasn't ultimately to score a decent result. The car spinning off late in the race. There were lots of people going off. Frederic Verviche, for example, went off the road early on, whilst there were plenty of squabbles going on. 2 teammates fell out, and Thomas Kanemater was the casualty in 111. He was tipped into the gravel at the parabolica. So on track, it was Alex Buncombe versus Philip Eng, and down to the first chicane, the Nissan boomed past, but too late on the brakes was Alex. Got the car slowed down eventually, but he had to hand the lead back to the Austrian driver. Mark Henrici, who was expected to be a potential winner, had a suspension breakage at the chicane. He went off into the gravel and into retirement. Alex Buncombe eventually did get that race lead on the inside going into the chicane, and once ahead he was able to build up the advantage before handing over the car to Lucas Ordonez. A problem for number 1, Laurens Vanthoor, in the Audi. A punctured tyre costing them a lot of time from which they were never able to recover while out on track. Dramas early in the race for Matteo Cressoni. He parked the BMW after a drama at the chicane. Mark Hayek evacuated the Lamborghini and allowed Peter Cox to get on board as Giacomo Petrobelli had his 3rd spin, and for that he got a driving standards flag. Mark BDS BMWs were gaining ground. Peter Cox, having got into the Lamborghini, had this spin coming out of the parabolica, and he lost time having clanged the Armco before he could rejoin. On track, Nico Verdon was busy squabbling with the Ferrari in the hands of Davide Rigon. He was able to find a way through. 1 or 2 drivers, though, had an early bath and a walk back to the pits on the famous Monza banking. The 2nd safety car was needed after Andy Merrick clanged the barrier in the Gulf Racing McLaren. It was the end of his race, and then Charles Putnam had his 2nd gravelly moment of the race as well. He went off at the parabolica. Michele Cerruti's BMW was off at the Variante Ascari. That needed dragging out of the gravel. But number 44 Ferrari pitted early at the end of the 2nd stint. Daniel Zampieri took the car over, but it was looking so strong. Jordan Grogor had a spin coming out of the 2nd Lesmo, and that was the end of the 88 McLaren after Rob Barth's earlier good work. Car 1 went to René Rast for the last stint. Daniel Zampieri lucky not to get involved in an incident with the Ferrari going through the first chicane. But all focus then turned to Edward Sandstrom. He was second, but he ran wide coming out of the second Lesmo. That gave the place to Andy Soucek, and then he had a heck of a duel with Adam Carroll. They were level at the first chicane, but Sandstrom fended him off. All the while, they were being caught by Andrea Bertolini as Patrice Guélard put himself to the head of the Gentleman Trophy class. For Zampieri, Rigon and Cesar Ramos, it was victory. Came across the line to take the checkered flag, 20 seconds or so clear of Andy Soucek. It was Castle Racing's first outright win in the championship. Soucek bagged second, but for third, it was this close on the line. Adam Carroll had his nose in front, Edward Sandstrom fought back, and 28 thousandths of a second separated them as they came over the timing line. It was a stunning way to end the race. So it's been an all-action opener to the Blancpain Endurance Series here at Monza. Happy drivers on the podium being presented with trophies. Next stop is Silverstone. From John Watson, Jack Nicholls and me, David Addison, we'll see you in the UK for round 2.